Finance Minister Wagle presents budget of 21.24 trillion for upcoming fiscal year, projects economic growth rate of 7%. Nepal marks 19th Republic Day with a ceremony at Tudikal. President Paudel calls for safeguarding democratic values. UN marks Peacekeepers Day worldwide, Nepal among the largest contributors in global peacekeeping missions. Russia-Ukraine war spillover hits Romania. EU and NATO condemn drone strike on residential building. UN calls for urgent action to protect children online. Tech companies urged to ensure safer digital platforms. And Nepal finishes fourth in Kava Women's Volleyball Championship, suffers defeat to India in today's match. Good evening, I'm Diksha Awasthi and this is NTV World Primetime News. We are coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours Nepal time. Elsewhere it's 13:15 in London, 22:15 in Tokyo and just after midnight in Sydney. The details now. Nepal's Finance Minister Dr. Swarnim Wagle has unveiled a record national budget of 21.24 trillion Nepali rupees for the upcoming fiscal year, with the government targeting 7% economic growth through reforms, investment promotion and technology-driven development. Presenting the budget at a joint session of the Federal Parliament on Friday, Minister Wagle said the spending plan is centered on good governance, production-based economic expansion and large-scale structural reforms in policies and institutions. The budget allocates 12.70 trillion rupees for current expenditure, 4.31 trillion for capital expenditure and 4.22 trillion for fiscal management, while aiming to raise 14.4 trillion rupees in revenue. Major policy announcements include a 21% salary increase for civil employees, cuts in customs duties in 273 raw materials, the removal of excise duties on 360 items, and the launch of a fully automated VAT refund system to improve the business environment. The government has also announced investments in artificial intelligence, green energy, education, health, and sports infrastructure, while allowing Nepal's private sector to participate in international electricity trade for the first time. In the meantime, economic growth rate of 7% has been projected for upcoming fiscal year. Nepal achieved economic growth rate of 3.85% in the current fiscal year. Defying the ceiling set by National Planning Commission by more than 2 trillion, Finance Minister Dr. Swarnim Wagle presented the annual budget for the upcoming fiscal year 2026-27. As the budget brings smiles to most of the sectors, many are concerned over its implementation, which projects ambitious growth rate of 7%. Devendra Subedi looks into the budget in numbers and its highlights.
Finance Minister Dr. Swarnim Wagle has presented the annual estimation of Nepal government's income and expenditure of more than 21.24 trillion rupees for the fiscal year 2026-27. In the joint meeting of Legislature Parliament Friday, Minister Wagle presented the budget, which is almost 2 trillion higher than the ceiling set by the National Planning Commission. Breaking down the expenditure details, Finance Minister Wagle said he has allocated 12.70 trillion rupees for current expenditure. Likewise, there has been little increment in capital expenditure with 4.31 trillion rupees allocation. Likewise, expenditure for fiscal management has been allocated at 4.22 trillion rupees. Projecting the income for the upcoming fiscal year, Finance Minister Dr. Wagle said 14.4 trillion rupees will be recovered from revenue collection, which is almost 2 trillion higher than the current fiscal year. Likewise, 61.74 billion will be managed through grant and 2.47 billion will be generated from foreign loan, according to Finance Minister Dr. Wagle. Internal loan of 4.1 billion will be drawn to manage the income, according to Finance Minister Dr. Wagle. Meanwhile, Minister Dr. Wagle has ambitiously projected economic growth rate of 7% for the new fiscal year. The growth rate sounds ambitious given the current fiscal year's growth rate of 3.85%. Presenting the budget, Finance Minister Wagle expressed his hope that the budget will set a standard for good governance. Minister Wagle said the upcoming budget will bring transformations in policies, laws, institutions, procedures, and leadership, thus establishing good governance. Stating that the nation is in the decisive juncture of comprehensive economic reforms, Minister Wagle said the budget is centered on massive reforms in economy and the establishment of good governance. According to Minister Dr. Wagle, the new budget is primarily focused on production-based economy, good governance and technology-friendly development. The minister claimed that this time's budget has been presented as a reliable document for policy transformations instead of limiting it as an official statement. Information and communications, artificial intelligence, finance, trade, investment and collective capacity of Nepali community that spreads across the globe have been presented as major basis for economic transformations. Minister Wagle said the government aims to build new structure for a coordinated economic growth through the proper utilization of new technology.
Nepal marked Republic Day with a series of nationwide celebrations as the government organized special programs across the country over 3 days. The main state ceremony was held at the Army Pavilion in Tudikhel, Kathmandu, attended by President Ramchandra Paudel, Vice President Ramshai Prasad Yadav, Prime Minister Balendra Shah, and other senior dignitaries addressing the gathering. President Paudel said the establishment of the Republic remains both a major achievement and a national responsibility, while stressing that many public aspirations linked to the Republic system are yet to be fulfilled. He called for political unity, strong democratic values, and ethical conduct in public life, expressing confidence that ongoing structural and legal reforms by the current government would restore hope among citizens. The ceremony also featured ceremonial marches and musical performances by the Nepal Army, Nepal Police and Armed Police Force, while local governments from across Kathmandu Valley showcased cultural rallies and tableaux highlighting their religious identities. Now, Nepal is celebrating the 76th Everest Day today, commemorating the first successful ascent of Mount Everest, the world's highest peak, by Tenzing Norgay Sherpa and Sir Edmund Hillary of New Zealand on May 29, 1953. The historic climb is widely regarded as one of humanity's greatest achievements in mountaineering and continues to symbolize courage, endurance, and adventure. Nepal has officially observed Everest Day since 2008, following the death of Sir Edmund Hillary earlier that year, while Tenzing Norgay passed away in 1986. This year's celebration also comes as Mount Everest records a historic spring climbing season, with the highest number of permits issued in a single season since expeditions began on the mountain. According to Nepal's Department of Tourism, 492 climbers from 50 expedition teams received permits to scale Everest this season, setting a new record for both climber participation and royalty revenue collection. Time now for a short break. We shall be back with more updates. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World Primetime News. Now the remaining updates. The International Day of United Nations Peacekeepers is being observed around the world today, recognizing the service and sacrifice of personnel serving in global peacekeeping missions. Marked annually on May 29, the day commemorates the launch of the United Nations' first peacekeeping operation in 1948, with the year's theme focused on investing in peace. According to the United Nations, peacekeepers from 118 countries are currently deployed across 11 missions worldwide, with Nepal remaining one of the largest contributors of uniformed personnel. More than 4,300 Nepali soldiers and police officers are currently serving in various UN peacekeeping operations across the globe. On the occasion, U.S. Secretary General Antonio Guterres called attacks on peacekeepers a serious violation of international humanitarian law, while the United Nations announced that 2 Nepali peacekeepers, Corporal Suraj Lamichhane and Private Deviram Jaisi, will be posthumously awarded the Dag Hammarskjöld Gold Medal for losing their lives in the line of duty. Now, heavy rainfall overnight has caused flooding in several parts of the Kathmandu Valley, inundating low-lying settlements and disrupting normal life in Kathmandu and Bhaktapur. Rivers including the Bagmati, Vishnuvati, Manohara and Hanumante, along with several smaller streams, swelled after continuous downpours that began around 9 p.m. last night and continued into the morning. The Department of Hydrology and Meteorology recorded 77 millimeters of rainfall in Babarmal, 48.4 millimeters in Kirtipur and 38.4 millimeters in Panipokhari, while more than 72 millimeters of rain was also measured in Sindhupalchok within a short span of hours. Authorities said recent riverbank clearances helped prevent major flooding in some previously vulnerable settlements, though drainage congestion still led to waterlogging in several urban areas. The Met Division has warned that unstable conditions will continue in the coming days, with risks of rainfall, lightning and further flooding as multiple weather systems remain active over Nepal. Nepal Cancer Hospital and Research Center in Harisiddhi marked its 9th anniversary with a cancer awareness walkathon in Kathmandu to raise public awareness about early detection and treatment. The event saw participation from a large number of cancer survivors who aimed to encourage newly diagnosed patients and boost their morale in fighting the disease. Organizers stressed that cancer is a treatable medical condition when diagnosed early, urging people not to panic and to seek timely medical care. They also highlighted that effective cancer treatment is available within Nepal, reducing the need for patients to travel abroad for care in many cases. The walkathon began from Basantapur and passed through Indrachok, Botahiti and New Road before concluding back at Basantapur after covering key areas of the capital. Nepal is moving to protect the historic Panchadeval area in Dailik, a site linked to the ancient Sinja kingdom and considered an important part of Karnali province's cultural heritage. Located in Narayan Municipality 6 in Bhurti village, the centuries-old stone structures dating back to around the 11th century are now deteriorating due to lack of conservation efforts over the years. The site was recommended for UNESCO World Heritage listing in 2008, but limited follow-up work led to further decay of the monuments, many of which are now damaged or located on private land. The team from the Department of Archaeology has recently completed a field study to begin protection and preservation measures in coordination with local authorities and residents. Officials and local representatives have expressed commitment to completing the necessary requirements for UNESCO listing, as the site holds historical significance with more than 60 devils and stone pillars spread across the area. Financial irregularities in local governments across Palpa district have declined this fiscal year, according to the latest 63rd annual report of Nepal's Office of Auditor General. The report states that out of 15.20 billion Nepali rupees audited in fiscal year 2024-25, irregularities worth around 139.6 million rupees were recorded across 10 local levels, accounting for 0.92% of total spending. This marks a significant decrease compared to 203.89 million rupees in the previous fiscal year, continuing a downward trend from 279 million in 2020-23 and 413.3 million in 2021-22. Among local units, Nisti Rural Municipality recorded the highest irregularities, while Tinau and Raina Devi Thahara Rural Municipality reported the lowest. The Auditor General's report indicates an overall improvement in financial discipline and accountability in local governance. Now, international news coming up next. For now, a short breather. Now the international updates. The European Union has hit out at Russia after a drone crashes into a Romanian apartment block, injuring 2 people. No deaths have been reported and the fire has been put out. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says Russia's war of aggression has crossed yet another line, while NATO condemns Russia's reckless behavior. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte condemned Russia's reckless behavior and pledged full solidarity with Romania, while Moscow is yet to comment. European and NATO leaders also warned the incident underscored growing security risks along the alliance's eastern flank as the war in Ukraine continues. Meanwhile, Romania summoned the Russian ambassador as officials confirmed the strike marked the first time a residential building in the country had been directly hit during the recent Ukraine-Russia conflict, which began in 2022. The United States and Iran are still negotiating key issues before any agreement can be finalized over the ongoing war and related nuclear concerns, according to U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. Vance said that it was too early to say when or if a deal would be reached, despite reports of a tentative framework under discussions between the two sides.
We're going back and forth on a couple of language points. I do think that we've made a lot of progress here. It's very clear that I think the Iranians, they want a deal, and they want to open the Straits of Hormuz. We want them to open the Straits of Hormuz. There are a couple of issues on the nuclear stuff, the highly enriched stockpile, and also the question of enrichment. So, we're going back and forth with them. We do think they're negotiating, at least so far, in good faith, and we're making some progress.
Meanwhile, the proposed memorandum of understanding between U.S. and Iran would extend to a ceasefire for 60 days and open negotiations on Iran's nuclear program, but it is still pending approval from President Donald Trump and Iranian leadership. The framework reportedly includes provisions for maritime access through the Strait of Hormuz and potential U.S. sanctions waivers to allow Iran to resume oil exports, though Iranian media said no agreement has been confirmed. Both sides remain divided over uranium enrichment, with Washington demanding restrictions and Tehran maintaining its nuclear program is peaceful. In more from Middle East tensions, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that he has instructed the Israel Defense Forces to expand control over Gaza to 70%, up from what he said is about 60% currently. The expansion is controlled by Israel would contradict the terms of the Donald Trump-led ceasefire Israel and Hamas agreed to in October 2025. Speaking at a conference, he described ongoing operations against Hamas and indicating further territorial gains as part of continued military pressure.
אנחנו יכולים למנף את הכוח שלנו עם הרבה כיוונים. תצטרך עוד למחוץ את חיזבאללה. אנחנו כרגע לופתים את חמאס, כן? אנחנו עכשיו ב-60% משטח הרצועה, אתם יודעים את זה. היינו ב-50, עברנו ל-60. הדירקטיבה שלי היא לעבור תלכו לפי הסדר. קודם כל 70. בואו נתחיל בזה. לופתים אותם מכל עבר, אנחנו נטפל בשאריות.
Japan and the Philippines have agreed to begin formal negotiations on an intelligence sharing pact as the two allies deepen security cooperation. Japanese Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi and Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. also announced plans to elevate bilateral ties to a comprehensive strategic partnership. The proposed General Security of Military Information Agreement would allow the two countries to share classified military intelligence similar to arrangements Japan already has with the United States, Australia and South Korea. Now, more international news and sports updates on the other side of this short break. Stay with us. Now, in the remaining international update, defense leaders and military officials from 44 countries gathered in Singapore on Friday for the opening of the Shangri-La Dialogue, Asia's premier security summit. The summit comes amid rising geopolitical tensions in the Indo-Pacific and beyond. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is expected to deliver one of the summit's most closely watched speeches on Saturday, focusing on Washington's regional strategy and security commitments. China's defense minister are expected to skip the annual forum, a move experts say reflects Beijing's increasingly assertive posture as tensions persist over regional maritime disputes. China has instead announced that it will be sending a delegation of experts and scholars from its armed study institutions to attend the summit. Making the digital world safe for children in an urgent priority, the United Nations said today, adding that those responsible for online harm must be held to account. UN Rights Chief Volker Turk said states had to force tech giants to embed child safety and said child harm was the direct result of business practices and design choices. Turk said the digital world that connects children to learning, community, and creativity also exposes them to real risks to their safety, privacy, and well-being. Turk said simply focusing on age restrictions would leave unaltered the designs and algorithms that made the platforms unsafe in the first place. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights called for tougher measures by countries and tech firms to make online platforms safe places for children through better regulation, oversight, and accountability. The India Meteorological Department presented the second stage long-range forecast for the southwest monsoon 2026, highlighting rainfall trends, rising temperatures, and evolving El Nino conditions. The Meteorological Department said India is likely to receive below-average monsoon rains for the first time in 3 years in 2026. Secretary of the Ministry of Earth Sciences, Dr. M. Ravichandran, said that the southwest monsoon seasonal rainfall over the country as a whole was likely to be 90% of the long period average, indicating that below normal rainfall was most likely over the country as a whole during the monsoon season spanning from June to September 2026. Meanwhile, rain is expected to intensify in southern state of Kerala till the 3rd of June. A Blue Origin New Glenn rocket exploded during a test in Cape Canaveral, Florida on Thursday, sending a massive fireball and thick smoke into the sky in a major setback for the company's space program. The company founded by Jeff Bezos said an anomaly occurred during the test, but confirmed that all personnel were accounted for and no injuries were reported. Video from the site showed the 98-meter rocket erupting into flames as spectators reacted in shock to the explosion. The New Glenn rocket is central to Blue Origin's efforts to compete with Elon Musk and his SpaceX in the commercial space race. Now with that, we move on to sports updates. Host nations Nepal has missed out medal at the Central Asian Volleyball Association Kava Women's Volleyball Championship after losing to India in the third-place playoff in Kathmandu today. India secured a 3-1 victory over Nepal at the National Sports Council covered hall in Tripureshwar, winning the first two sets 25-22 and 25-23 before Nepal responded strongly to take the third set, that is 25-15. However, India regained control in the fourth set, edging Nepal 25-22 to seal the match and secure the bronze medal position. The defeat leaves Nepal in fourth place in the regional tournament despite strong home support throughout the competition. Nepal had earlier fallen to Iran in straight sets during the semi-final clash on Thursday. Now, with only 2 weeks remaining to the start of the FIFA World Cup, Iran's football team has yet to receive US visas ahead of the FIFA World Cup, according to Iranian ambassador to Mexico. Ambassador Afzal Pasandid said the team has been unable to prepare properly after relocating its training camp from Arizona, US to the Mexican border city in Tijuana. He said visa delays and the opening Middle East conflict have prevented Iran from training under equal conditions compared with other teams in the tournament. Iran is scheduled to play group stage matches against New Zealand on June 15 and Belgium on June 21 in Los Angeles before facing Egypt on June 26 in Seattle. Iranian officials are seeking multiple entry visas for players as diplomatic concerns continue ahead of the competition. And before we wrap up, here's a reminder of our top stories. Finance Minister Wagle presents budget of 21.24 trillion for upcoming fiscal year, projects economic growth rate of 7%. Nepal marks 19th Republic Day with a ceremony at Turikal. President Paudel calls for safeguarding democratic values. UN marks Peacekeepers Day worldwide. Nepal among the largest contributors in global peacekeeping missions. Russia-Ukraine war spillover hits Romania. EU and NATO condemns drone strike on residential building. UN calls for urgent action to protect children online. Tech companies urged to ensure safer digital platforms. And Nepal finishes fourth in Kava Women's Volleyball Championship, suffers defeat to India in today's match. That's it for this edition of Primetime News. Our next bulletin will be at 2200 hours Nepal time. Do join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website, nepaltelevision.com. Thank you for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
and welcome to Business World. I am Siksha Bhattrai. Fresh pressure on global fuel prices and growing uncertainty in energy markets to record investment in artificial intelligence and major shifts in trade, manufacturing and technology, it has been another busy week for the global economy, with decisions made in one part of the world continuing to ripple far beyond the borders. Tonight we take a look across Asia, Europe and the United States for the stories shaping industries, markets and consumer trends around the world. Concerns over instability are also growing in global oil markets, where supply fears are beginning to alarm energy analysts. The head of the International Energy Agency has warned that global oil markets could soon enter what he describes as a red zone if instability in the Middle East continues through the summer months.
The head of the International Energy Agency has warned that the world oil market risks entering a red zone by the upcoming summer season should there be no progress on ending the Middle East war. Fateh Birol, during a Q&A at the Chatham House think tank in London, said that global energy markets could enter the red zone on supplies in July or August if there are no improvements in the war situation.
And the problem is, end of June, early July, the travel season starts. What does it mean? Typically, oil demand, oil consumption goes up. So these two things, the stocks are eroding. Not new oil is coming from Middle East, and the demand is increasing. This may be difficult, and we may be entering the red zone in July, August, if we don't see that there are some improvements in the situation.
He further added that continued instability could tighten global supply conditions further, increasing volatility in oil prices and heightening energy security concerns for the importing countries.
The situation in the Middle East is also influencing diplomatic and economic decisions across Europe. The European Union has widened its sanctions framework against Iran, introducing new measures linked to maritime security and freedom of navigation in the Middle East.
The European Union Council has expanded its legal sanctions framework against Iran to include actions that threaten freedom of navigation in the Middle East as a basis for restrictive measures. In a statement released the same day, the EU Council said the revision builds upon existing EU restrictive measures against Iran. Under the updated framework, the EU can impose sanctions on the individuals and entities that participate in or support Iranian actions and policies deemed to threaten maritime security in the region. Measures under the framework include travel bans, asset freezes, and prohibitions on EU citizens and companies providing financial or economic resources to the listed targets. Iran has not yet responded to this.
A very different kind of power struggle is now unfolding in the global technology and defense sector. SpaceX is reportedly at the center of growing tensions with the Pentagon over the rising cost of Starlink military services, highlighting how private technology companies are gaining unprecedented influence in global defense operations.
SpaceX is facing growing tensions with the Pentagon over the cost of its Starlink network, which shows the increase in financial and strategic influence of the company in the defense sector. SpaceX raised the connection fee for military drone operations from around $5,000 to nearly $25,000 per terminal per month during the ongoing Iran conflict. The Pentagon ultimately agreed to the higher pricing, increasing the operational cost of some drone systems significantly. The dispute also reportedly extends to plans for Starlink's direct-to-cell service in Iran, with SpaceX proposing charges of up to $500 million for deployment and around $100 million per month for operations. The negotiations underline the Pentagon's growing dependence on SpaceX technology. Starlink currently operates roughly 10,000 satellites, accounting for more than 60% of all active satellites in orbit, far ahead of rival networks. SpaceX generated an estimated $11.4 billion in Starlink revenue in 2025 and is reportedly preparing for a major IPO. Analysts say the company's expanding role in military communications and defense infrastructure is giving it increasing leverage in negotiations with the US government. The Pentagon has reportedly been exploring alternative providers, but officials acknowledge that few competitors currently match Starlink's global coverage and battlefield communication capabilities.
The artificial intelligence boom continues to attract a massive investment and reshape the global technology industry. NVIDIA says it plans to significantly increase investment in Taiwan, reinforcing the island's central role in the rapidly expanding global artificial intelligence supply chain.
NVIDIA says it will increase its investment in Taiwan to around $150 billion a year, according to CEO Jensen Huang speaking at an event in Taipei. The U.S. chip giant chief described Taiwan as the epicenter of the AI revolution, saying the island is booming and will remain central to global artificial intelligence development. Huang said NVIDIA's spending, up from around $100 billion, will help build a stronger technology ecosystem and expand its engineering base in the region. Taiwan is already a global hub for semiconductor manufacturing, with companies like TSMC and Foxconn playing key roles in NVIDIA's supply chain for advanced AI chips and data center systems.
The race for AI dominance is also intensifying competition for skilled workers in the semiconductor industry. Samsung Electronics employees have approved a new bonus agreement with management, easing concerns over possible labor tensions at a time when soaring demand for AI memory chips is driving strong profits for the company.
Employees at Samsung Electronics have approved a new bonus agreement with management following concerns over a potential strike during a period of surging chip profits driven by the global artificial intelligence boom. The deal was backed by more than 73% of union members and ensures tens of thousands of workers will receive performance-linked payouts tied to the company's semiconductor division earnings. Samsung has seen profits soar in recent quarters as demand for AI-powered memory chips continues to rise, with operating income jumping sharply year on year and its market value crossing the $1 trillion mark. The agreement is seen as a move to retain skilled engineering talent amid fierce global competition, as South Korea's chip industry remains central to the country's export-driven economy.
Attention is also turning toward the digital space, where governments are moving to tighten regulations and online protections. Malaysia is introducing stricter online safety rules for digital platforms, including new protections aimed at limiting social media access and exposure to harmful content for users under the age of 16.
Malaysia will require digital platforms to introduce safeguards from June 1st to restrict account registration and ownership by users under the age of 16. The Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission said the new rules also mandate stronger content governance to reduce young users' exposure to harmful materials online. The measures are designed to provide age-appropriate protections for high-risk platform features, with regulators allowing a reasonable grace period for companies to comply. Authorities said the framework will be outcome-based, giving platforms flexibility to adopt appropriate verification and safety solutions while meeting the legal requirements. The move follows growing concern over online harms in Malaysia, including scams, cyberbullying, and illegal content involving children, with broader age verification rules planned for 2026.
And regional trade cooperation was also high on the agenda this week in China. Trade ministers from across the Asia-Pacific region have concluded the latest APEC meeting in China, with discussions focused on strengthening regional trade, investment cooperation and supply chain resilience.
The 32nd Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation APEC ministers responsible for trade meeting concluded in East China's Suzhou on Saturday, yielding fruitful results and laying significant groundwork for the APEC economic leaders meeting in November. The trade ministers meeting focused on building an open and predictable regional and multilateral economic and trade order and fostering new engines of innovative and dynamic trade and investment cooperation. Chinese Commerce Minister Wang Wentao briefed the media on the meeting's outcomes at a press conference. Wang said the meeting issued a joint statement titled the Suzhou Statement and approved the latest edition of the APEC Roadmap for Innovative, Competitive and Resilient Services. Wang said that parties agreed to advance policy innovation and reform in services sector, build an open and predictable investment environment, improve regional trade facilitation and supply chain resilience, strengthen standards coordination, and enhance intellectual property protection.
In South Asia, policymakers are now focusing on stimulus measures to revive economic activity and protect jobs. Bangladesh's central bank has announced a multi-billion-dollar stimulus package aimed at restarting closed factories, supporting businesses and protecting jobs as economic growth slows.
Bangladesh Central Bank has announced a 600 billion taka equivalent to $5 billion stimulus package to revive shuttered factories and support businesses as economic growth slows. The package aims to restart production, create jobs, and restore business confidence as export-oriented industries, especially the ready-made garment sector, struggle with weaker global demand, higher input costs, and supply chain disruptions, while rising import bills add to pressure on the economy amid geopolitical tensions in the Middle East. The largest allocation, amounting to 200 billion taka, will be used to reopen closed and distressed factories and support service sector businesses. The central bank estimates the program could help create around 250,000 jobs.
Global uncertainty is also putting pressure on Southeast Asia's manufacturing sector. Thailand's automobile industry has slipped to its weakest production level in 5 years, with exporters facing mounting pressure from global instability, rising energy costs, and slowing industrial demand.
Thailand's car manufacturing sector has fallen to its lowest level in 5 years in April, as export disruptions linked to the war in the Middle East and rising energy costs weighed on industrial output, according to the Federation of Thai Industries (FTI). Auto production declined 0.44% year-on-year to 103,794 units in April, reversing a 2.69% increase recorded in March, according to the industry body. Thailand, Southeast Asia's largest automotive production hub, serves as a key export base for global manufacturers, including Toyota, Honda, and Chinese automakers such as BYD and Great Wall Motors, which have expanded investments in recent years to serve both domestic and overseas markets. Despite the downturn, the FTI has maintained its forecast that car production will rise 3% to 1.5 million units in 2026, following a 0.9% decline to 1.455 million units last year.
While parts of the technology industry continue to surge, China's luxury retail sector is facing a very different environment. French luxury retailer Galeries Lafayette has closed its flagship Beijing store after more than a decade in operation, reflecting broader changes in consumer behavior and slower growth in China's luxury market.
The French luxury department store Galeries Lafayette has closed its first flagship outlet in Beijing, marking an end to 13 years of operations in the Chinese capital amid weakening domestic consumption and changing retail preferences. The 6-story store, which opened in 2013 near the city's historic center, had become a landmark for international luxury shopping during China's rapid consumption boom in the last decade. However, the company says shifting consumer behavior, reduced demand for large department stores, and broader economic pressures have made the business model increasingly unsustainable. The closure reflects wider challenges facing global luxury brands in China as the sector adjusts to slower growth, changing spending habits, and a post-pandemic retail environment.
At the same time, countries are continuing to push investment into renewable energy and long-term alternatives. Germany is pushing forward with its renewable energy ambitions as construction continues on what is expected to become the world's tallest wind turbine, a project symbolizing the country's transition away from coal dependency.
A wind turbine built as the world's tallest is rising in eastern Germany, winning praise as a beacon for a clean, green energy future. The giant structure, set to dwarf the Eiffel Tower at 365 meters once completed, is going up in the former coal mining region of Lusatia in Brandenburg state. Once its huge rotor blades start spinning before the end of the year, it is expected to generate enough electricity to power 7,500 households. Developers say the project is part of Germany's broader transition away from fossil fuels, particularly in regions historically dependent on coal mining such as Lusatia. Officials also hope the landmark turbine will attract investment in renewable energy infrastructure while serving as a symbol of industrial transformation in the area.
Meanwhile, Nepal's hydropower expansion is gathering pace with construction now underway on a key access tunnel for the Lower Sethi hydropower project in Tanahu. The tunnel is expected to play a crucial role in the development of one of the country's major upcoming energy projects.
Construction of the access tunnel for the 126-megawatt Lower Sethi hydropower project under construction in Tanahu has begun. The tunnel being built at Devghat Rural Municipality 4 is considered crucial for the construction of the project's main structures. Tanahu Hydropower Limited, a wholly owned subsidiary of the Nepal Electricity Authority, has moved forward with the work after signing a contract with RK Hydro Engineering and Associates. According to Project Chief Hari Kumar Shrestha, the construction had been delayed for some time due to pending approval for the use of explosives, but work has now started after the necessary clearance was obtained. The semi-reservoir type peaking run-of-the-river project aims to generate more than 520 million units of electricity annually. A 32-meter high dam will be constructed on the Sethi River near Sarangat in Bandipur Rural Municipality, creating a reservoir approximately 12.7 kilometers long. Stored water will be diverted through a 6.75-kilometer tunnel to the semi-underground powerhouse located at Gaighat in Devghat Rural Municipality. The estimated cost of the project is $227 million.
And finally, tonight, a lighter story from the Gulf region where mango season is helping strengthen regional trade ties. The annual Mango Mania Festival got underway across Gulf markets in the UAE, bringing together dozens of mango varieties while also highlighting the growing trade relationship between India and the Gulf region.
The 23rd edition of the annual Mango Mania Festival is underway in UAE's Gulf Cooperation Council markets with aim to boost Indian agricultural exports and strengthen regional trade ties. The festival features more than 85 mango varieties sourced from India and other international suppliers, with organizers expecting around 3,200 tons of mangoes to be sold across GCC outlets during the season. A key highlight of the campaign is the GI-tagged Kesar mango from Junagadh in Gujarat, often referred to as the Queen of Mangoes. The variety gained renewed diplomatic visibility after Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi presented a box of premium Kesar mangoes to UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan during a recent state visit. India remains the world's largest mango producer, accounting for more than 45% of global output and cultivating over 1,200 varieties, including 17 with a geographical indication status.
And that's all for this edition of Business World. From energy and technology to trade, manufacturing and retail, this week's developments reflected both the opportunities and challenges facing economies around the world as industries continue to adapt to rapid change. Thank you for watching. I am Siksha Bhattrai. Stay informed and stay connected. Good night.
trimmed mustache, mirrored shades, and an unmistakable smile, Tenzing Norgay Sherpa climbs a steep hill in Khumbu. It's May 1991. After 38 years, he's returning to meet his old climbing partner, Sir Edmund Hillary, the man with whom he first stood atop the world.
Tenzing, good to see you. My goodness. Well, yeah. Hi, Dickie. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Hi. Long time, good to see you again.
Yes, isn't he? Did you have a good walk up?
Oh, very well.
Good.
Fine.
Sagarmatha, head of the sky. Chomolungma, the mother goddess of the world, or simply Mount Everest. A mountain with many names, yet for generations it meant only one thing: the impossible. Since the 1920s, climbers from around the world had tried to conquer it. Many never returned. Avalanches, storms, frostbite, the mountain refused them all. Then on 29 May 1953, Edmund Hillary of New Zealand and Tenzing Norgay Sherpa of Nepal stood together on top of the world. The world woke up to the headline, "Everest is conquered."
This is the BBC Home Service. Here is the news. Mount Everest has been conquered by members of the British expedition. The news reached London in a message to the Times. It said that Mr. E.P. Hillary, a New Zealander, and Tenzing Bhutia, a Sherpa, had reached the summit last Friday, May 29th.
Among the 35 men in the team that made history was Kancha Sherpa, the last surviving member of that expedition. He passed away in October 2025. He remembered the climb as hard but joyful.
Chamulong bona हामीले सुनेको छ हामी के काममा जाने त्यहाँ जाने कामै थिएन अब यहाँको मान्छेहरू चाहिँ तल लोबेजसम्म बस्छ त्यहाँबाट त हामी जाने कामै छैन अनि तेन्जिङहरू त हेरेर आएर बु माथि एभरेस्ट चाहिँ हामीलाई थाहा पायो नभए हाम्रो गाउँै भए पनि हामीलाई के जाने कामै छैन गाह्रो भयो हजुर मलाई गाह्रो त के जानु नस्याङ्ने के अब कहिले पनि जस्तो काम गरेको छैन त्यो पनि त बारी बोकेर त खरबासमा जानु पर्यो यहाँ हातमा डोरहरू समाउनु पर्यो यहाँ आइसाङ समाउनु पर्यो यहाँ बारी थुप्रो बोकेर जानु पर्यो अनि त्यो साँगोमा जानु पर्यो अनि माथि जुरेर जानु पर्यो अनि गाह्रो त एकदम गाह्रो छ तर यस्तो काम पाएर धेरै खुसी भयो नि
Hillary loved Khumbu and Khumbu loved Hillary. He dedicated his life for the region and its people. In the decades that followed, Everest became a symbol of determination, not just for men, but for everyone who dared to dream. In 1993, Pasang Lamu Sherpa became the first Nepali woman to stand on the summit. Her journey was marked by courage and struggle.
पैसा हुनु पर्यो यसमा आफूले लगानी गरेर खर्च गर्नु पर्यो रोयल्टी तिर्नु पर्यो अब आफूले सँगै लानु गुरुबहरुलाई चाहिँ खानाहरु हुनु पर्यो लुगाहरु एकैमैको पैसाहरु हुनु पर्यो त्यसकारणले चाहिँ यो पैसाले नि पैसाकै समस्याले गर्दाखेरि पनि अगाडि बढ्न नसकेको हो तर यहाँ एउटा ट्रेनिङको महिलाहरुलाई चाहिँ यो माउन्टेन ह्याली क्षेत्रमा एउटा ट्रेनिङको व्यवस्था बन्दोबस्त पनि त्यति साह्रो राम्रो छैन.
For some, the climb is a personal test. For others, it's a way to uplift an entire nation. Of the many record holders from Nepal, Apa Sherpa, who's also known as the Super Sherpa, had reached the summit 21 times before announcing his retirement.
म यो रेकर्डको लागि चढ्ने भए त म आज पनि चढ्न सकिन्छु नि तर म म रेकर्डको लागि होइन, मैले हाम्रो देशको लागि, हाम्रो राष्ट्रको लागि माथि पहिले सुरुवातमा त आफ्नो पेसा भनौँ न, अब पुरा नै हाम्रो राष्ट्रको लागि भनौँ, पहिले सुरुवातमा त आफ्नै पेसाको हो, तर त्यो लास्टमा म चढिरह्यो भने त्यो त तपाईँको उस जस्तो देखिन्छ कि कम्पिटिसन जस्तो देखिन्छ कि मलाई त्यो मेरो चाहिँ नि त्यो कम्पिटिसन होइन र म राष्ट्रको लागि हो। त्यसैले मैले अब 2011देखि मैले सन्यास लिएर अपसेवा फाउन्डेसन खोलेर शिक्षा सबभन्दा इम्पोर्टेन्ट चाहिँ के छ हाम्रो शिक्षा, एजुकेसन छैन भने हामीलाई धेरै गाह्रो छ। मैले खैराहरूले पनि भन्दैछु विदाउट एजुकेसन वी हेभ नो चोइस, एजुकेसन इम्पोर्टेन्ट छ, त्यसपछि हाम्रो वातावरण। त्यसैले हाम्रो नेपालको लागि म त्यो दुईवटालाई जोडेर मैले सपोर्ट गरिरहेको छु।
Over time, the story of Everest has changed. Each climbing season now brings not only adventurers, but also income and impact. In 2024, Everest generated nearly 676 million Nepali rupees, almost 80% of Nepal's total mountaineering revenue. The fee for foreign climbers has been revised now to $15,000 each. So far, more than 8,000 summiteers of different nationalities have climbed Mount Everest. Many more aspire to reach the top of the world. To ease the pressure on Everest and promote other regions, the government of Nepal has opened 97 peaks that range from 5,970 meters to 7,123. One can climb these mountains in the western Karnali and Sudur Pashchim provinces without having to pay royalties. As voices increase for the need of having summited at least one mountain over 7,000 meters in the country before bidding for the Everest, these 97 peaks are likely to be training ground for summiteers. With success, Everest has also seen a heavy burden. In 2023 alone, more than 75 tons of waste were collected from the Everest region. This included plastic, metal, oxygen bottles, and even human waste. The mountain has also been plagued by fatal climbing attempts.
यसपालिको भन्दाखेरि त अब लास्ट इयरको पनि मरेको लासहरू अझै पनि छन् माथि बाटोमै पनि त्यो लासहरू देखे हामीले यो 8,300-400 मिटरमा बालकुनीमा त्यो लासहरू पनि अझै भइरहेछ र फोहोरहरू पनि सर्चकलमा पनि टन्नै फोहोरहरू छ। पहिला हामीले अब शहरमा त आरओ सङ्घले पनि 2011 मा सफा त गर्यो, त्यत्रो फोहोर ल्याए 10 टन फोहोर पनि धेरै नै ल्याएको त्यतिखेर। त्यति ल्याउँदा पनि अझै फोहोरहरू चाहिँ एकदमै छ भनौँ न। टाइममा अब राज्यले चाहिँ किन त्यसलाई चाहिँ अलिकति व्यवस्था के अब कुन हिसाबले हुन्छ त्यो फोहोरलाई अलिकति तल ल्याएर अलिकति सफा गर्यो भने एभरेस्टको लागि अलिकति विदेशीहरुको लागि अलि राम्रो होला कि भन्ने चाहिँ हामीलाई लाग्छ।
Sagarmatha has taught the world to dream higher, but now she asks us to care deeper. The greatest climb perhaps isn't upward, but inward. "70 years since the first ascent, much has changed, but one thing has and will remain constant. Everest has and will continue to stand tall and keep challenging human abilities."
What if I told you a story of a place shrouded in mystery and steeped in stones? A place where warriors were born and raised, and their path through the mountains still remain to this day. Ajirkot Gorkha, the unbeaten kingdom.
हामी पाहुनाहरू आउनु हुँदाखेरि हामी यसरी स्वागत गर्छौं अनि अलि-अलि नाचगानहरू देखाउँछौं।
जस्तो घाटु चुड्काहरू भन्ने चाहिँ विशेष गरी हुन्छ यहाँ।
For those seeking a luxurious escape, there are stunning lodges that offer an indulgent retreat amidst the rugged beauty of this place. But for the true adventurers, this place has it all, from trekking through dense forest of Nagapur.
Nepal has numerous places and monuments of historical, archaeological, religious, cultural, and natural significance. Among them, one is Bodhanath Stupa that lies in the northeast of Kathmandu. This world-famous stupa is the property of ancient arts and culture. It is also the property of Buddhist civilization. This region, spread in about 7,630 square meter area, is about 7 kilometers far from Kathmandu Darbar Square. It is about 100 feet in radius and has a height of about 141.8 feet. Its date of construction is not yet exactly ascertained. However, some
Hello there, welcome to the Nepal Budget 2026-27, a special edition on NTV World. I am Bhavna Kesi. The government of Nepal has unveiled a record national budget of 21.24 trillion Nepali rupees for the upcoming fiscal year 2026-27, with projection of 7% economic growth through reforms, investment promotion and tech-driven development. The government has also announced investments in artificial intelligence, green energy, education, health and sports infrastructure, while allowing Nepal's private sector to participate in international electricity trade for the first time. To discuss Nepal's budget 2026-27 in depth and its implications, we are joined in live by former Vice Chair of the National Planning Commission, Dr. Prakash Kumar Shrestha, and the President of the Confederation of the Nepalese Industries, Birendra Raj Pandey. I'd like to start with Dr. Shrestha. Dr. Shrestha, first of all, welcome to the NTV World, and we'd like to know what is your overall assessment of the Nepal's budget 2026-27? Dr. Shrestha? Dr. Shrestha, we'd like to know what is your overall assessment of Nepal's budget 2026-27? Dr. Shrestha, can you hear us? Dr. Shrestha, welcome to the NTV World. And first of all, we'd like to ask, what is your overall assessment of Nepal's budget 2026-27?
As today, the Finance Minister has unveiled the budget for the coming fiscal year. Overall, it is good. It is expansionary. It has many policy and provisions for reforming economy and try to boost the investment in the economy. And budget has lowered the income tax rate and increased the minimum slab for the income tax, and there are many provisions focused on the promoting the information technology sectors, and there are other new reforms. But this all of effectiveness of all these actually will be based on how effective will be the implementations. There are so many things. Some are quite ambitious. Budget looks quite expansionary. Compared to the current fiscal year, it has been increased 25% based on the revised estimate, but it could be as high as 1/3 of actual estimate of this current actual expenditure of this current fiscal year. That's why it is quite expansionary. Let us see how it will be implemented. Our real problem is in implementations, and actual budget after implementation should be expansionary, not only in the budget, but that's why we have to wait for the implementation. There are many new things, how it could be implemented, and there are quite good things also. It has proposed to reform the public enterprises. It has said that the government will going to make a public enterprises as a public company and make a disinvestment. So that even from that government can collect some resources for investment. That's a good thing. But the actual effectiveness will depends on the how it will be going to implement it, given the capacity constraint and the resource constraint.
Dr. Shrestha, we'll come back to you. We have another guest as well. We have Birendra Raj Pandey, the president of CNI. Mr. Pandey, how has the private sector reacted to this year's budget? Does the budget create the confidence among the private sector regarding the investment and the expansion of the industries here in Nepal?
We've heard the budget today. I mean, it's the very, initial stage that we've been commenting it, but if we look at what has been said, it's quite encouraging. Most of the recommendations that we've made during various meetings and various committee discussions. Many of them, or most of them, have been incorporated in the budget, so that's it's a good thing. As Dr. Prakash has said, it's a bit expansionary, and we've been expecting expansionary budget this time because the current economic condition is a bit dire. The aggregate demand is very low, and the economy is not moving that well, and that's why we wanted to see a bit more investment in infrastructure and other areas, so that this investment from the government side can play as a catalytic role in attracting other private sector investment. There are various elements regarding the taxes and industries, in education and health, and mines and minerals, infrastructure sector, and digital domain. A lot of programs have been announced, and we are quite hopeful that this budget will, can be an instrument to attract more investment.
Mr. Pandey, what you said, and according to what has been seen till so far, the private sector seems elated with this year's budget. So what more does the private sector expect from the incumbent government, given the fact that this is the first time the RSP, Rashtriya Swatantra Party, is leading the government? So what are the expectations of the private sector from this year's budget and this government?
Yeah, this is the first time that RSP-led government is presenting the budget, and this and in this budget, as we have been recommending to the government, and we have actually provided, recommended various reform measures before the election. We have published the areas of improvement that can be incorporated in political manifesto. And most of the things are incorporated in 100 points Pasha Patra of the Rashtriya Swatantra Party as well, and the successive documents that was made public by the government. These recommendations are incorporated. So we believe that if this budget is well implemented, which has been an issue in the past, we believe that this should be helpful in improving the growth and supporting the economy. Overall, if we look at the industry area, we've been saying that there has to be a custom difference of at least 5 to 10% on finished goods and raw materials. That has been announced today with the changing of more than 273 goods. And also another one was the excise, been raising the issue, and 360 goods the government is trying to remove the excise, which eventually help reducing the cost of doing business. And also the government will be reviewing the SAFTA sensitive list. This is also one of the key recommendations that private sector is making. And same way, the tax regime have been reviewed. The minimum income tax limit increase, reduction of the maximum threshold in the taxes. That will also help increasing the disposable income for the people, and instigate the aggregate demand in the economy. Similarly, there has been a lot of institutional reforms announced with the merger of government institution, and also attracting private sector investment in terms of public-private partnership in various corporations, which is also good. Yeah.
Mr. Pandey, you have talked about the taxes as well. The custom duties on 273 types of raw materials have been reduced at this time. Will this meaningfully lower production cost for domestic industries? How will you analyze this?
For domestic investors, if there is a reform in regulatory regime, the budget says that the government will be implementing one-stop service sector, as well as digitalize most of the government services. That will entail the private sector in lowering the cost of doing business and also improving the transparency of governance. That will definitely attract private sector investment if we can implement those reforms in an efficient way.
Now, I'd like to I have a question for Dr. Shrestha. You have worked in the capacity of vice chair as well. So the government this time has projected the economic growth rate of 7% for the fiscal year 2026-27. How realistic you find this target given Nepal's current economic conditions? Dr. Shrestha.
Given the current economic situations this year, this current fiscal year, economic growth is estimated to be around 3.6 around, and that's why based on that, 7% growth targets looks ambitious, but the target can be set, and if the given reform and the tax changes and proposed government expenditure, if realized, and capital expenditure also has been increased a lot. How much it will be realized. If these things, proposed things realized, then the 6 to 7% growth can be achievable if the demand can be increased in the economy, because already the many industries are running the under capacity utilizations, as very low capacity utilizations, and if the government through the reform can encourage the private investment, then the some sort of higher growth can be possible. If 7% may maybe the slightly less than 7%, 6 to 7% is possible. But let's see how the budget will be implemented. As I said earlier, normally given our capacity of the bureaucracy and so forth, there is no any big reform has been said in the budget how to make the public is the government machinery is effective. The government raised the salary, but there are many government lacks the technical manpower, and how it goes to hire the technical manpower and to execute all these projects, capital projects, and there is a capacity, low capacity in private sector also. There are so many projects as infrastructure projects proposed in the budget. How much the private sector can able to execute, especially the contractor side, private sector, they have to also able to execute this project. There are many projects already under constructions. They are not going well.
Dr. Shrestha, while we talk about the challenges, this time the scenario is quite different. We are still reeling under the aftershocks of the COVID-19, plus the Middle East crisis. It has escalated, it has pushed the economic sector to further bring. So how the management should be done? What is your perspective on this?
Yeah, it's a very critical time. Obviously, because of the Middle East war, inflation has been rising. That's why the budget, I think, considering these things, has proposed that 6% inflations. And it is not only the case of inflations, there is the availability of construction materials. How long this war will go, and for that, government should come up, should make some strategy how to tackle these things. Although the budget hasn't said much about this current geopolitical tensions, although proposed many ambitious and obviously attractive things, but all of this depends on how effectively it will be executed. And obviously there are many constraints, internal as well as external constraints, and that's why we have to wait and see its implementations.
Now, I'd like to ask a question to Mr. Pandey. Mr. Pandey, for the first time, Nepal private sector has been allowed to participate in international electricity trade impact regarding the energy market. So what is your say on this?
Yeah, actually, our independent power producers and private sector have been asking this for quite some time now. Actually, if they are, I mean, the private sector is given the leeway to trade electricity in the international market. That will ease actually currently, we have not been signing the PPA as much because of the demand that the doubt in the consumption demand. So that issue can be resolved by private sector, trading their energy in the international market. That will also create the competitiveness and ease the burden to Nepal Electricity Authority on having to buy electricity, whether they need it or not. So I think it's the right move, and if private sector can get themselves into electricity trade as well as the transmission of the electricity, that will definitely create a market for private sector and increase the activity here in Nepal.
Dr. Shrestha, regarding the same issue, how important is the government's decision to allow the private sector into the international trade of the electricity?
Yeah, in the budget, the government has mentioned and how possible it will be technically, and some even some is a kind of bilateral relation also. And if it can happen, then obviously we have a lot of potentiality of hydropower. Then it will be realized, and because now private sector has a lot of interest in the hydropower, they are investing a lot of money in the hydropower. There are many projects in pipeline. Even the government has been constructing many projects as mentioned in the budget. So Nepal should actually export that electricity to neighboring country, and for that the government as well as private sector should be able to do that. But let us see how capable is the private sector to do that, although they are demanding, and how much is technically feasible, and how much it can be manageable. That's the kind of technical things, and the relevant person, concerned person of these areas can say. But if it is happen, it will be good for the Nepal's and good for the Nepalese economy.
Mr. Pandey, can this budget realistically attract more investment and foreign direct investment here in Nepal, given the background, given the context that foreign direct investment, FDI, has always been such a big issue here in Nepal?
Yeah, this FDI, the investment from foreign investors has been very low as compared to our peer countries in the region as well as abroad. So, I mean, we need to attract international investors in various areas, and this budget has focused a little bit on that area by allowing the repatriation of the proceeds in an easier way, as well as paying for the royalty and other fees. So if the overall regulatory mechanism has been eased for domestic as well as international investors, definitely there will be more interest from the international investors to invest in Nepal. This is, I think, the step in the right direction, as the budget mentions that the repatriation of profit will be made easier, and also there will be a hedging mechanism implemented so that the foreign currency risk be minimized. So these are some of the hurdles that were preventing foreign direct investment to come into Nepal. So probably these initiatives will definitely ease this and promote international investors.
Mr. Pandey, regarding the VAT system, a high-level advisory committee will study the possibility of introducing the multi-rate VAT system. Would such a system make taxation more efficient or more complicated? What's your take on this?
Sienna has been advocating for the multi-level, multi-layered VAT system since last several years. We have a very open border with India, and our trade dependency is very high, almost 65 2/3 of our trade, whether it's import or export, that is with India. And we have to make our pricing and the tax regimes and all that similar to the Indian product, so that there will be less chance for unauthorized trade, and also it will ease the burden for our people on the essential goods and services, and also support the government revenue as well. So they are win-win for the economy as well as the general public. So we have been advocating for the multiple VAT system, and this time the budget, we have heard that the government will be studying in detail on how best we can implement that, whether we are institutionally capable to implement, and whether the private sector is also able to implement that. So I think we have to do it, but this matter is we have to be ready and capable enough to properly implement this multi-layer.
I'd like to come to Dr. Shrestha. Dr. Shrestha, Mr. Pandey has also pointed out to the trade deficit that Nepal is facing. What's your take on the trade deficit, and how do you see the balance between the government's spending and the economic productivity in this budget?
If the government want to increase the economic growth, then obviously it will increase the trade deficit, because even for our many internal construction as well as even for export, we have to import. And that's why import will increase if this expansionary budget is executed. And obviously there are the increase in capital expenditure. All of these things demand the increase in import. And on the other hand, now because of geopolitical tensions, already the price of petroleum price are high, and other raw material price are high based on the petroleum products. That's why already the industries are suffering. Their cost of production is already high, and that's why our import already for last two months, our import has crossed the 200 billion per month. That's why there is a chance of higher trade deficit, because our export is already weak, and I don't think that within the year our export will increase much, because our export capacity and export base is very weak, and that's why there is a chance of further increasing trade deficit from this budget.
Dr. Shrestha, the sunset laws are also being introduced to automatically review the outdated laws and policies. How transformative this move can be for Nepal?
Which one?
The sunset laws, they are being introduced to automatically review the outdated laws and policies of Nepal. How transformative do you think this move can be regarding the Nepal's governance system?
Obviously, this automatic review will encourage the investment and ease the doing business, and that can promote both foreign investment and domestic investment.
Dr. Shrestha, the artificial intelligence, it has also featured in this year's budget. The government has announced the Matri Bhumi course that is aimed at establishing an AI industry. How realistic is this in Nepal's push toward the artificial intelligence and the innovation-driven growth?
This budget actually has focused on the IT sector much, and has proposed to establish AI hub, AI centers, and obviously establishing these types of IT services. It will increase the demand for the electricity also, and obviously it will promote the IT services. And now in recent years, Nepal has been doing quite well in exporting the IT service, and because of this focus, IT sectors will expand much, and obviously it will help to increase the economic growth as well as employment in the IT sectors. Obviously, the use of AI, many people say that it can reduce the employment. That is also kind of possibility, but it will open the employment in a new area. and we can use this new technology to the other sectors also, like the agriculture, even light manufacturing, even the tourism. So with that, we should expand the use of this new IT development. We should expand our other sector, like other productive sectors, so that our economy can grow at a higher rate as proposed by the government in the budget, like 6 to 7%.
I'd like to come to Mr. Pandey. Mr. Pandey, AI has featured in this year's budget. How does the private sector see this as?
Which one, sorry? I missed it.
The artificial intelligence, it has been featured in this year's budget, and Dr. Shrestha has pointed that it has become such an important aspect of our day-to-day life. How does the private sector see, given the situation that the government has prioritized the artificial intelligence in this year's budget, in upcoming fiscal year's budget?
Yeah, I mean, this artificial intelligence has been a buzzword in international arena as well as in Nepal. It's been touching everyone's life as we speak. So it is really important that we promote this, probably establish IT stack based on our Nepali culture, Nepali language, and also need to have necessary infrastructure that will enable this activity within the country, protecting our data sovereignty and all that. So the government has announced establishing a data center here in Nepal, and also supporting other infrastructure promoted by the private sector. And when we engage IT-enabled softwares and services for various government service delivery, as well as banking, finance, and other private sector businesses, we definitely need such kind of infrastructure within the country, so that these processes can be these can be processed within the country. So it is very important that we invest in such kind of data center and high performance compute area, and by doing that, we can also have international clients established and taking their spaces in our Nepalese data center. We use clean energy, as well as we have other necessary conditions available within the country. So there's a tremendous opportunity of using our electricity as a raw material in providing such services to the domestic as well as international client. So the focus on AI as a service, as well as improving AI infrastructure, is I think the need of the hour, and the government has given the timely attention in this matter.
Mr. Pandey, as we talk about the artificial intelligence and the potential or the possible job opportunities this might create in the market, we all are aware of the fact that we are also tackling the unemployment and the youth migration. So how do you see how this will help, this year's budget will help to create the job opportunities in the Nepali market, given the fact that you represent the Nepal's private sector?
Especially in the IT sector, IT-enabled services, and this area, there are opportunities if we can, enhance our skill base towards the global trend, and so there's definitely an opportunity here in this sector, because of our the demographic dividend and IT savvy young population here in the country. For that, we need to also invest in the education and increase quotas or the replacement available for such education, and especially in the IT enabled and this domain, rather than the education degree, skills are more important. So we have to focus on the micro learning, micro credentials, and and enhance the skills relevant for this area. So there's definitely the area that we can work on, and in this sector, people can work from anywhere. So our young boys and girls, they can stay in Nepal and work for international companies, as well as also work in our domestic community. So I believe there's an opportunity there.
Mr. Pandey, there are the tax policy changes also announced in the upcoming year's budget. So how do you see, how will it impact the inflation and the consumer prices? That inflation, it has been impacting our day-to-day lives. So how do you see all of this?
There has been increase in the personal income tax slab, and also the reduction in the maximum tax bracket. So these two initiatives will have more disposable income for the people to spend, and this will support the aggregate demand of the economy. So it will have a positive impact, I think. But there's definitely inflationary pressure because of various reasons, as the salaries of the government employees increasing, as well as there's a West Asian war effect on the food prices and other commodities as well. So it is a very tricky thing to balance, but with the investment coming in infrastructure and other areas, as mentioned in the budget, I hope that there will be more economic activity going forward, and that will support income to the households, and they'll increase the disposable income, which ultimately entails increasing the aggregate demand. So probably support in positive way.
Now I'd like to come to Dr. Shrestha. Dr. Shrestha, fiscal discipline and rising public debt has been another issue in Nepal's economic sector. How concerned are you about the fiscal discipline and the rising public debt?
Given the large budget size and the low revenue capacity, this time also government has increased the budget deficit, and to fulfill that deficit has proposed a quite ambitious external debt target and higher internal debt, and because of that our government debt will increase further, and actually internal debt in net borrowing has been increased by 45%, and if the proposed external debt realized, then our debt will be much higher, could be the 45-46% of GDP, and if that debt will be used in the increasing the productive capacity, and if that debt contribute to the higher economic growth as proposed, like 7% or 8%, if that happens, then it will be not a big issue. Otherwise, there will be the borrowing, but the economic growth, if remains sluggish, and then our debt liability will increase further, and that will put further pressure in upcoming budgets to manage, because already the more than 400 billion rupees actually needed for the debt servicing, for repayments and interest and principal repayments. That's why the main concern is how we utilize the debt we mobilize, how productively we utilize, but the statement is not clear how this loan is going to be utilized. Like there is in which project actually the internal debt will be utilized. Actually, there should be some earmarking so that the debt will be properly utilized in the productive way and high return project. We have to see how this debt will be in practice will be used, and how much the impact will be in the economy in terms of revenue collection and the economic growth. Otherwise, there is a high risk of debt increasing debt burden, and if it continues, then we will have the quite serious concern on the debt management.
Dr. Shrestha, as we talk about the fiscal discipline, is the capital expenditure a target achievable given Nepal's past spending performance? How do you assess this?
Yeah, for last few years, our capital expenditure has remained very weak. It's just the actual realizations budget, actual to budget ratio is about 58% average. So the out of 100 capital capex, government actually spent only 58 rupees. So this time also budget has been increased. Capex budget has been increased from 400 billion to 431 billion. And the question still remains how much will be realized given our implementation capacity from the government side as well as our private sector side. And if it doesn't, if the capex doesn't increase, but the debt will increase, then that will put some pressure on our public finance management. But given the past experience, there is not much hope. But now that we have the new government with close to two-thirds majority, and through the institutional reform, increment of capacity, and through that, government can execute the given proposed capital budget, and then we can say that this budget is good. That's why there is a doubt how much the capex will be spent given this constraint.
Dr. Shrestha, where do you see the biggest gap between the investment planning and the actual expenditure in context of Nepal?
Could you say again?
Where do you see the biggest gap? It has been said that there has been gaps between the investment planning and the actual expenditure of Nepal. So where do you see these gaps? How do you assess that Nepal has failed to sustain the momentum in the past? And where do you see the biggest gap between the investment planning and actual expenditure?
Yeah, that's the past experience past experience is not good. So the new government actually the government has been trying to make a reform everywhere, and they have to reform in the bureaucracy also. Government has increased the salary. Obviously, we can hope that will increase some motivations to do. There is on proposal of performance-based salary also. There is a 10% hike, and for another 10% based on the performance. If that will be implemented effectively, and that will increase the implementation capacity, and still government should hire the technical manpower, and so that they can perform, they can implement the policy programs of the government. Budget has a lot of new policies program also, and there are many already started projects and to be completed. All of these things needs actually the capacity of the government, and let us see how it goes. Is a new government, powerful government, and that's why the government can now has said that in the budget they will bring this sunset law, and they will say that they will not going to transfer the project staff during the project period, and all of these things are implemented. Then we can hope that the gap between the actual and the planned budget will be lower.
I'd like to come to Mr. Pandey. How do you assess that? In what ways can private sector's involvement support Nepal government's long-term economic development goals?
The private sector contribution of private sector in the economy is quite high. It's more than 80% in terms of employment generation as well as the contribution revenue. And there has to be a very good working relationship between the government and the private sector. There shouldn't be any trust deficit and the absence of the confidence, as sometimes we used to see in the past. Both the private sector and the government has to work hand in hand to achieve all these targets that we all our people and the country we aspire to. So definitely we have to work together, and for that we are hoping that the government will provide the conducive working environment with clearer legal system, simpler and clearer and predictable policies and stable policies, so that the private sector are clear on their objectives and their obligations that they need to fulfill in terms of taxes and other regulatory compliances. So this is very important, and I believe the government is trying to set up that kind of environment for the private sector to perform, innovate, and take risks and invest more in.
Mr. Pandey, we are at the almost end of this program. Before we leave, I would like to ask, what reforms do you think are still missing from this budget?
Yeah, this budget, we can see that they have been reducing the regulatory burdens. They have reduced the customs tariff from 11 to I think 8 or 7 different types. And also other number of multiple taxes have been removed in different levels of the government. So we're gradually, I mean, the government is trying to make it easier for private sector to perform. And if the digital, if we have the digital transformation on public service provisions, that will definitely support the business activities of the private sector.
I'd like to come to Dr. Shrestha. Dr. Shrestha, what do you think, what reforms are missing from this year's budget, and do you believe the budget is realistic when it comes to the implementation and the revenue targets?
Excuse me?
Dr. Shrestha, what reforms do you think that are still missing from this budget, and how confident you are that the budget is realistic in terms of the implementation and the revenue targets?
Actually, there are many things, many new things also, some ambitious things also. Question is still whether the government has that much capacity to implement all of these things. That's why it's not a matter of missing actually. How much we can be targetable, how much we can be specific. It's quite easy to say in the budget, easy to write and easy to just read in the parliament, but it's not easy to implement given the resource and given the implementation capacity. That's why I expect this budget should be implemented effectively. Whatever they included in the budget, there are many very good provisions also, and if that can happen, and actually I would like to say that in the next year when the finance minister is presenting the budget, we will be happy to see how much progress have been made in the budget presented today. So at least there should some evaluation or review document should come up with the new budget, at least in annexes, or at least should be made public, so that the government will be more accountable and responsible. So I actually request the government next year in next year budget statement, government should come up with the review of progress metrics of this current budget.
Thank you, Dr. Shrestha, and thank you, Mr. Pandey, for sharing your insights in Nepal's budget 2026-2027 and giving an in-depth insight, in-depth view on the budget and its implications. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for providing this opportunity. Thank you for NTV World and you.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Well, that was our discussion on Nepal's budget 2026-2027 with the former Vice Chair of the National Planning Commission, Dr. Prakash Kumar Shrestha, and the President of the Confederation of the Nepalese Industries, Birendra Raj Pandey. We'd like to thank them so much. And with this, we come to the end of this program. Thank you so much for staying with us. Have a great time ahead, and namaste.
In the natural splendor, the silver-like peaks or the Himalayas glisten. Cradling a pond filled with milk in its lap, the Numbur Himal gleams. The Dudkunda, meaning a milk pond in Nepal's northeastern district of Solukhumbu, is truly the gateway to the paradise. The Numbur, Katang and Karyalung mountains seem to smile at all times. Adorned with a garland of colorful flowers, the Dudkunda is overflowing as if filled with milk. The very sight defines nature at its best. Feels as if the Numbur mountain is giving motherly affection, holding the lake in its lap. The beauty is so serene and virgin that one fears not to stain it by touching. Indeed, Dudkunda is nature at its purest form. Located at Solu Dudkunda municipality, Taksindu, the natural paradise draws many visitors. No matter how many words are spent describing it, they all feel inadequate upon reaching there. The name itself is fulfilling and equally sacred.
हजारौं नरनारीहरू चाहिँ तीर्थयात्रीहरू दुधकुण्डमा जानुभएको छ। म पनि पुगेर आएँ। दुधकुण्ड असाध्यै पवित्र स्थल यो हिमाल काखमा रहेको तीर्थस्थल हो, पुण्यस्थल हो, देवस्थल हो र त्यहाँ चाहिँ एकचोटि पुग्नै पर्दो रहेछ। त्यहाँ पुगेर जुन आनन्दको अनुभूति हुन्छ त्यो चाहिँ कहीँ पनि पाइँदैन भन्ने चाहिँ महसुस भयो।
आनन्द लाग्यो भएन, मस्त लाग्यो। अनि यो ठाउँमा चाहिँ आएर तपस्या गरेर बस्नु जस्तो लाग्यो मलाई।
एकदमै राम्रो लाग्यो हैन, प्रकृतिले दिएको रमणीय तीर्थस्थल हैन। जो कोही पनि एकचोटि चाहिँ यहाँ आएर एकचोटि भ्रमण गरेर दर्शन गर्नुपर्छ जस्तो लाग्यो।
Situated at an altitude of 4,531 meters above the sea level, Dudkunda is a sacred pilgrimage site of culture and nature. It feels like nature has blessed this place, and culturally, it has bound all castes and ethnicities in a thread of unity. There are various legends and sayings about Dudkunda. One argument is that the pond was formed during the creation of the Himalayas and was discovered by local sheep and yak herders. According to another legend, in ancient times, a yak would go to a stone where the pond is located and offer its milk every day. Later, the place was found to be a pond filled with milk, leading to its name, Dudkunda. This has also led to the belief that gods and goddesses reside here. There are 3 different routes to reach Dudkunda. One route is through Salleri, Faplu, Taksindu and Sasra Beni. Another route goes via Lukla, the gateway to the Everest, through Nunthala, Taksindu and Sahasra Beni. Nature has truly blessed the Solu Dudkunda municipality. Truly, just like the majestic Mount Everest, Dudkunda has the potential to be the destination for everyone in the days to come. It is a thread of unity among all castes and ethnicities. Just like the holy water of Dudkunda, it will become a pure and excellent destination.
People simply observe and take pride in artists and their promotion of Malaysian culture internationally. But nobody cares how they struggle just to survive and maintain their sanity. The waves of stress that are constantly present and how it impedes their creative minds. The life of an artist is like an uneven curve. It never moves smoothly through a straight line. As an artist herself, Shima tries to make her life easy and its journey smooth sailing in a straight line. But this does not happen. After graduating with a bachelor's degree in art and design with a major in pottery and ceramics in 1982, Shima started her own business. She did not only do batik paintings on fabric and other soft materials, but also took part in painting, designing and production of batik garments. All these activities did not make her happy and she could not sustain herself financially. Then she decided to concentrate on paintings.
Things that you can comfort with, you can live with it. Because for the beginners, they have to find things and it's not easy to get all the materials. So first, you have to survive. Second stage, after you survive, you want to find yourself. There's a long way until that you become famous because of something in the painting itself. So it's comfort because it comes like it's not a day or a month or a year. It's going to be continued maybe until you die.
Shima has been concentrating her creative works on paintings for nearly 2 decades. Her artworks mainly reflect traditional houses as imagery. She wants to spill the colors of her childhood experiences onto the canvas consciously.
This is from the experience before that you have. You see things, you see something that inspired you, that is the one that comfortable with, so that you just go on with that subject. Like a house is something that we experienced before. We live in those kind of houses, traditional, that which is in our childhood. We grown up there, and it's in the memory because we don't have it anymore.
Within the imagery of traditional houses, Shima does not only want to have nostalgic gratification, but also represent Malaysian multiculturalism in her paintings.
If you are Malay, there was the influences in the houses. If you are Indian, there were some images that shows. So this is what all about Malaysian multicultural. We have huge things to explore. It's something about our country. It's something about Malaysia in a way of you create it.
Devotion, patience, tolerance, commitment and inherent creative capacity are the fundamental qualities of an artist. Being an artist, Shima always feels the challenges of creating a new painting.
I think the challenge is the artist itself. How they going to create good work, good artwork that you can show that to the public. That is the most challenging, because whether the public can accept it or not, and you can think whether you can continue with this career or not.
Once the painting is completed, Shima has a happy moment. It is a kind of great winning.
Happy moment, you've been rewarded. You won something. You've been, like I said, rewarded means whether you winning some contest or you've been rewarded because of your artwork being chosen for some reason of, your painting was in that certain place, which is people are looking up at it.
Being an artist is not always good. On many occasions, Shima has had very bad experiences within her society.
At the first step, you've been ignored because they say that your artwork is not going anywhere. It's very disappointed.
Like Shima, 21 other artists have been working in the artist colony. The colony is a traditional village-based art center where artists from different fields and expertise do their works. There are 11 government-subsidized wakafs, open-air wooden shelters built for artists within the craft complex in Kuala Lumpur. In the village, artists do not only create artworks, but also conduct various educational activities, such as teaching, training, and observational programs.
That's how you get the color, okay? Wherever you do, you must...
Just a comment on my part.
Every artist working in this village has their own style and creativity. They have been working with different mediums, forms, and compositions. Their different artistic talents create their distinct identity. However, they have a common practice of promoting the Malaysian way of living and culture.
So I'm the one who did the painting about art, Malaysian naive art, to promote Malaysia, especially when the tourists come over here, what they can bring back to visit Malaysia while they are on tourism. So to present my country, so they know what is Malaysia they have.
My subject is more to flora and fauna, and this is, as you can see here, this is more to semi-abstract artwork, and I'm really concentrate on texture series, and this is considered my latest series.
It's my painting normally my environment. Normally my family like this. This my family, my son, my daughter. Look together. The title is together. That's mean. Well, I create a watercolor on a theme of the mangrove swamps of Malaysia. I travel from north to south just to record all the pictures, all the picturesque view of the mangrove, and back at home, I'll record it on my paper with watercolor.
A lot of Malaysian artists, they use a lot of images from surrounding, you know, like historical buildings, like the traditional costume, something like that. So I think that show that Malaysian art scene, they have their own style.
Artists have their own particular perspectives and viewpoints to observe the surroundings and lives. They are born with certain natural gifts and talents. They also develop exceptional critical senses. They do recreation of the reality onto canvases. Their artworks are like mirrors that reflect different dimensions of local reality. The tourists, however, prefer local motifs in the artworks.
It's quite interesting to see some modern art. This complex is very interesting because there's a lot of different types of art and craft.
This is very different, and I particularly like her use of colours in the repeated motifs that she's got on display here.
I very like the Malaysian art because this one is very colorful and sketch was very beautiful.
Although the artists have been contributing a lot to promote the Malaysian culture internationally, they are under the wave of extreme stress. They have been struggling with hard times just to survive.
not enough income to survive, to get the sourcing, like selling the painting, to make you alive. That is the most important in their mind. Besides, they want to produce a good work.
Audience has to have to appreciate Malaysian art more.
Di Malaysia ni dari segi pasaran mungkin belum luas.
To survive as an artist is quite tough at the moment now. It depends on the how you tackle the customer and how they like it your painting or not. That is the only way.
Struggle a lot to keep on survive and keep on doing your work, because many artists you can find they do halfway.
The major buyers of Malaysian artworks are foreign visitors. However, due to severe global economic recession, the official statistics of the Malaysian Tourism Ministry show that the inflow of foreign tourists are very unpredictable. This has immensely affected the sale of artwork. Artists have no choice but to bear the pain.
We have to think about to promote Malaysian art. Malaysian artists have to try to find the funding, so and from that way they can promote themselves. If we want to ask government to help us, in that way also can, but the government have a lot of things to think about, so artists should think their own way. I think like Malaysian government have to must start to collect artwork from the artists, like their government department. They have a lot of department. They have to start to buy artwork.
Artists like Shima are struggling against a dire situation to overcome. After investing their golden age in the field, artists are continuously creating their arts and seeking the support from society. Shima has taken these circumstances as a school of life. She has a strong commitment and beautiful dreams to be the best artist possible.
You have to sell the painting to survive, to get the money to buy the food or to pay any bills. But then when that problem is solved, or you get a way to solve the problem, I think it's going to be, you learn like in a school, but this is not a formal school. It's like a life school. I want to create something of your own brand, of your own mark in your country. You are not being comparing with other artists. That is the most that most artists wanted. But it's not going to be happen in one day.
Artists and artworks are an integral part of any society. Despite the extreme stress on their minds, they document the contemporary history of social reality. They also make many significant contributions to social transformation, critiquing evil elements and innovating new ideas. The life of an artist is never smooth like a straight line. However, one cannot imagine life without art.
Pokhara is undoubtedly #1 destination for tourists in Nepal. The valley, blessed with natural beauty, attracts domestic and foreign tourists alike. You must have already visited Pokhara. If you haven't or planning another trip, then these are some of the must-go places in Pokhara. The first attraction in Pokhara is the Feva Lake. Boating in Phewa Lake is a ritual for every tourist visiting this paradise. The Tal Barahi temple at the center of the lake adds to the beauty of the place. A round-trip boat ride in Phewa Lake to and from the temple is a feature of both the lake as well as the temple. Separate boat ride, watching the reflection of Mount Machapuchre on the lake and fishing spice up the Phewa experience. The lakeside along the banks of the Phewa Lake is a popular tourist hub. Many tourists in Pokhara choose Devi's Fall as their second destination in Pokhara. The water from Phewa Lake exits towards Seti River through the Gupteshwar cave from this Devi's Fall. The mighty water stream rushing deep down into the gorge, covered by water vapor, is a magical sight. Pokhara is known as the city of lakes and caves. Many of the lakes and caves have religious importance. This is Gupteshwar cave at Chorepatan area. Inside the cave, the idol of Lord Shiva is a well-known pilgrimage. Further inside the cave, one can see the Devi's Fall. Mahendra Cave is another famous place in Pokhara, and nearby is another well-known Chamere cave. Both the caves can be visited together. Two other well-known tourist destinations in Pokhara are Begnas and Rupa lakes. Fresh fish of Begnas Lake is a sought-after delicacy. Rupa Lake is just round the corner beyond a small hill towards the eastern edge of Begnas Lake. Away from the hustle and bustle of the town, Begnas and Rupa Lakes cannot be taken out of a tourist's itinerary. This is the famous White Monastery on top of the hill above Phewa Lake. This is also a popular destination for domestic as well as foreign tourists. The top-angle bird's eye view of Pokhara city from the monastery is a sight to behold. The placid Phewa Lake, the tall mountain range, and the birds like paragliding pilots on the background of Sarankot Hill are mesmerizing. The Bindabasini temple in Pokhara is a famous shrine in Nepal. The best route to visit the temple is on the way to Sarankot. Devotees throng the Bindabasini temple, which is atop a small hill with panoramic view of Pokhara city. The Bindabasini temple is famous among the Hindus across the country. Sarankot is a hill station on top of a hill on the northwestern side of Pokhara. A must-go place to see the majestic Mount Machapuchre and Mount Dhaulagiri in the Annapurna range in front of the eyes, and also the Pokhara and Leknath cities on the other side. Sarankot is synonymous to paragliding in Nepal. Taking off from the Sarankot hill, one can enjoy the panoramic mountain range in addition to the bird's eye view of Pokhara city. ultralight and zip flyer offer a thrill to adventure seekers in Pokhara and are becoming major interests for tourists. Other places, including Swarak in Sangja, have the potential to be world's best place for paragliding. First time in Nepal, paragliding Accuracy World Cup was held at this place, situated at Mahapur or Virkot municipality of the district. The place drew global attention after the event. Pokhara, famous tourism destination of the country. Majority of locals engaged in tourism industry. The city of lakes and caves, hub of aviation sports. Some major destinations: Lakeside, Feva Lake and Tal Barahi Temple, Begnas and Rupa Lakes, Mahendra Gufa. Modern Nepal's political history has been profoundly shaped by the Democratic People's Movement of 2006. The popular movement holds historic significance as it was arguably the harbinger of Nepal's most advanced political perspectives and constitutional concepts. The movement for democracy sparked a new wave of Nepali consciousness and awakening by paving the way for a democratic republic. Numerous democratic movements in the past could hardly bring the expected results due to multiple reasons. For centuries, Nepali society suffocated under the shadow of feudal traditions. Deep-rooted caste, class and social discrimination kept the nation in a backward state. Neither were efforts made to improve the living standards of common people by elevating the economy of the country. Whether 200 years ago or more recently, ruling elites prioritized maintaining their grip on power over the concerns of common people. So was the level of political consciousness among the general public. Politics remained the domain of rulers, not the people. Genuine public participation in national politics began only after 1951, when the idea of a republican system first emerged in Nepal. The 1951 revolution played a decisive role in freeing Nepal from the despotic Rana regime. For the first time, elected representatives entered governance, introducing direct public concerns into the state system, albeit minimally. Yet, the nation did not prosper as expected. The monarchy resisted constitutional reforms, and the people's aspirations remained sidelined. In 1959, under immense public pressure, Nepal held its first general election, beginning the tradition of elected leadership. Structural changes in governance provided a foundation for social and economic transformation, but eliminating the feudal and authoritarian mindset of the existing forces who resisted change became impossible. Though some efforts were made to change the governance system and service delivery, it was negligible and failed to affect change in the behavior of the individuals who earlier enjoyed absolute power. The palace sought to maintain dominance, undermining democratic governments. Ultimately, the palace succeeded in not only overthrowing the democratically elected government, but also imposed a ban on party politics. During the 29-year-long partyless panchayat regime from 1959 to 1990, both the political and social development of the country remained restricted. The palace held supreme authority, suppressing opposition movements. Various political structures under the guise of people's participation were formed as proxy to the feudal system. The so-called people's leaders continued their loyal service to the palace. The organized political parties, banished now, neither individually nor collectively were able to act against the autocratic system. On the other hand, the palace was successful in using the divide and rule strategy in the political parties to fortify its dominance. Some democratic movements waged by the political parties in between were cruelly suppressed. Citizens had limited democratic awareness, while the palace and the rulers aimed to keep them silent under one-party rule. Yet, time could not be stopped. Gradual changes in education and communication services awakened the people to the indispensability of political freedom. Even under restrictions, political parties kept working underground to raise awareness and mobilize citizens for freedom and restoration of democracy. Ultimately, in 1990, parties unitedly launched the People's Movement to restore democracy in the country. The 49-day People's Movement against the Panchayat system succeeded, with more than 40 martyrs sacrificing their lives. As a result of their sacrifice, the partyless autocracy ended and multi-party democracy was restored. The earlier active monarchy became toothlessly constitutional. Newly written Constitution of Nepal 1990 guaranteed fundamental rights and freedom of the people, ushering Nepal into a new era. The 1990 changes were a turning point in Nepal's history. Parliamentary democracy began to grow, and so did the people's expectations. It was but obvious for the people who had been suppressed for decades to have expectations from their own government. However, the democratic political course of the country did not take the expected track after the 1991 election. The unity sown by the political parties during the popular movement gradually vanished. Partisan interests started overshadowing national interests. Numerous unsuccessful coalition governments after 1996 fueled public dissatisfaction. Parties still remained heavily engaged in power-mongering. People's expectation for national development did not materialize. Unemployment peaked, development stagnated, and people started getting frustrated with the political leadership. Though the 90s brought some progress, political instability remained to be the thorn in the flesh for the country. Education, health, communication, and transportation infrastructures improved, gradually fueling the expectation for transformed daily life. Citizens embraced democracy as synonymous to freedom, prepared to resist any obstacles to it. Yet, the most defining feature of this decade was political conflict. From 1996 to 2006, Nepal witnessed the climax of Maoist-led People's War. Rooted in long-standing caste, regional, lingual, gender and religious discrimination, the war drew support from marginalized groups excluded from governance even after the restoration of democracy. They chose armed rebellion over ideological debate. The ruling parties after 1990 also failed to embrace the inclusive and fair policy in governance and address the suppressed and marginalized communities. The Maoists mobilized these communities, arguing that power could be seized through armed struggle. Violence expanded, fueling counter-violence, and the conflict spread nationwide. The Maoist war intensified demands for a constituent assembly and a republican system. Though the idea of republicanism had existed since 1951, the war gave it new urgency. Maoist war was a whirlwind in time, with sparks of revolutionary political, economic, and social ideologies. Ultimately, the conflict pushed Nepal towards a republican state structure, reshaping the nation's political destiny. However, the protests championed by the political parties, culminating with the Maoist war, contributed to the establishment of Federal Democratic Republic Nepal. In the course of Nepal's political development, the People's Movement of 2006 established an unprecedented historical milestone. Several political events leading up to this movement remain memorable. They generated deep public disillusionment towards monarchy and ultimately led to the permanent abolition of the royal institution. Foremost among these causes was the rule of King Gyanendra. After the tragic royal massacre in which the then widely popular King Birendra and his family were killed, Gyanendra Shah ascended the throne. However, he was unwilling to remain within the constitutional parameters defined by the Constitution of the Kingdom of Nepal. He longed for active monarchy. In October 2002, King Gyanendra dismissed the people-elected government and began repeatedly forming and dissolving governments at his own discretion. In 2005, he took even more authoritarian step. This move, which effectively sidelined the major political parties, was widely condemned. The king's actions also drew strong criticism from the international community. Despite this, the king continued issuing anti-democratic directives. It became increasingly difficult for the major political parties to function within the constitutional framework as defined by the king. Fundamentally, the king's actions were against democracy and civil liberties. His authoritarian measures reduced ideological differences among the political parties and inspired them to establish a strong unity. King Gyanendra's unpopularity continued to rise. This made it easier for the nationwide people's movement against autocratic monarchy in 2006 to succeed. At the same time, following the king's unconstitutional takeover, efforts began from the major political parties to unite all anti-autocratic forces, including the then rebel force, the Communist Party of Nepal, Maoist. It became necessary to bring the Maoists, who had been waging a people's war for the past 10 years, into the democratic mainstream and involve them in the peaceful people's movement to ensure the restoration of democracy. Accordingly, on November 22, 2005, the Seven-Party Alliance and the CPN Maoist signed the 12-point agreement. The agreement called for the restoration of the dissolved House of Representatives in order to establish full democracy in Nepal, end of autocratic monarchy, and elections for a constituent assembly. It also included provisions for the Maoists to declare a ceasefire and participate in the peaceful people's movement, along with commitments towards an inclusive and participatory state system. Following the 12-point agreement, all national forces opposed to authoritarianism united behind the people's movement of 2006. Simultaneously, the international community became increasingly supportive of Nepal's political parties. The king ignored the suggestions and concerns expressed by institutions such as the United Nations and the European Union. Their moral support increasingly shifted towards the anti-authoritarian activities of the political parties. On the 6th of April 2006, the People's Movement was formally announced. In accordance with the 12-point agreement, the Maoists declared a ceasefire and actively participated in the movement called by the Seven-Party Alliance. From the very beginning, the movement witnessed massive public participation. The people, long oppressed by the feudal monarchy, sought liberation from its rule. They desired freedom from discrimination based on caste, language, gender, profession and economic status, and sought social and political equality. They wanted inclusive access to state power. People from various ethnic, lingual, religious, gender and regional communities sought recognition and protection of their identities within the nation. They sought freedom from all forms of oppression, injustice and feudal traditions, and desired the drafting of a supreme law, a new constitution, reflecting those aspirations. There was no longer any justification for merely pleading with the king for these rights. Thus, the nationwide People's Movement of 2006 witnessed extraordinary participation from common people. In an unprecedented manner, the people rose up. They awakened and no longer feared for their lives. Government curfews were immediately defied and broken. People from every class, profession and community participated broadly in the movement. The People's Movement became one of the most significant political events of the early 21st century. It emerged as a proud chapter in Nepal's history. After the sacrifice of dozens of Nepalese, unprecedented public support, the united commitment of political parties, the people's unwavering dedication to democracy and peace, and the moral support of the international community, the autocratic monarchy was forced to retreat for the first time. The king announced the reinstatement of the House of Representatives. Following the conclusion of the People's Movement on April 28, 2006, the reinstated House of Representatives held its first meeting. The supreme leader of the movement then, Girija Prasad Koirala, in his capacity as the Prime Minister on the 18th of May 2006, announced a declaration aimed at establishing a constituent assembly. The powers of the king were curtailed. Nepal was declared a secular state. Provisions supporting the monarchy in the constitution of the Kingdom of Nepal were rendered inactive. Subsequently, various agreements and negotiations were held with the CPN Maoist. On the 21st of November 2006, the government and the Maoists signed the Comprehensive Peace Accord, marking the beginning of another chapter in Nepal's history. This victory represented the triumph of the Nepali people's long struggle for a modern Nepal and the defeat of all reactionary forces and ideologies that had sought to keep the nation trapped in backwardness. A formal and permanent ceasefire was declared.
आज एउटा नयाँ इतिहासको सुरुवात भएको छ। नेपालले नयाँ युगमा प्रवेश गरेको छ। यो शान्तिको ढोका खुलेको छ र नयाँ युगमा नेपाल प्रवेश गर्दैछ। यस अवस्थामा हामीहरू सम्पूर्ण नेपालीले नयाँ नेपालको निर्माणमा सहभागी भएर हामीहरू अगाडि जान सक्नुपर्छ।
यो सामान्यतः 238 वर्षदेखि र विशेष रूपमा 7 साल वरिपरिबाट सुरु भएको आधुनिक नेपाल निर्माणको नेपाली जनताको चाहना, नेपाली जनताको पहलकदमीको विजय हो र नेपाललाई सधैं एउटा पुरातन पिछडिएको स्थितिमा राख्न चाहने तमाम प्रतिगामी तत्त्व र विचारको पराजयको दिन पनि हो।
Responsibility for the management of Maoist combatants and their weapons was entrusted to the United Nations. The reinstated House of Representatives drafted an interim constitution, thereby replacing the constitution of 1990. As required, amendments to the interim constitution continued, and the formal dissolution of the House of Representatives and the beginning of the legislative parliament were announced. From that day onwards, CP and Maoist formally entered the legislature parliament. A joint government, including the Maoists, was subsequently formed. However, the journey towards a full, inclusive and democratic system still required continued struggle and sacrifice. Despite all hardships, the Nepali people wished to constitutionally guarantee the principle that they themselves are the rightful owners of their nation and soil. The first meeting of the Constituent Assembly, elected after accepting and honoring the sacrifices and political transformations between 1st of February 2005 and April 10th, 2008, formally declared Nepal a republic. On May 28, 2008, Nepal was officially declared a federal democratic republic. The proposal received an overwhelming majority of votes from the members present and voting in the assembly.
नेपालको अन्तरिम संविधान 2063 को धारा 159 बमोजिम गणतन्त्र कार्यान्वयन सम्बन्धी प्रस्ताव बहुमतले पारित गरी घोषणा गर्दछु।
This historic declaration of the Republic remains and will continue to remain one of the greatest achievements in Nepal's history. The people of Nepal believe that the future constitution will uphold national identity, self-respect, national pride, and the country's social and economic prosperity, while strengthening the unity and dignity of an indivisible Nepal. Today's Nepal is a federal democratic republic of Nepal. The Nepal of today belongs to all Nepalese. This is the new Nepal.
Music, dance, food, art and devotion are the lifeblood of Newar culture, an ancient civilization rooted in the Kathmandu Valley of Nepal. With lively festivals nearly every fortnight, the Newars celebrate life through a rich tapestry of traditions known as Jatra.
A majestic destination blessed by cultural, religious, historic and natural diversities. Nepal is the country of Mount Everest and the birthplace of Lord Gautama Buddha. Karnali is synonymous to Nepal. One can experience the diversity of Nepal by visiting Karnali province. It is a must-go destination for those who want to experience the real Nepal. Karnali, that represents Nepal's age-old civilization, is in itself mesmerizing. The province has immense tourism potential with its unique natural, religious, cultural, archaeological and historic diversity. The famous tourist destinations in the province have played an important role in representing Nepal at the international level. Tourism can be the base for prosperity of Karnali region based on its immense prospects. Lakes, water bodies and famous religious sites are the major attractions for tourists in this province. Rara Lake, Sefoksundu Lake, Bulbule Lake, Chayanath, Dai Lake, Sinja Valley, Humla. This is Rara. Rara is the largest lake in Nepal. The lake is situated at Chayanath Rural Municipality of Mugu District in the Rara National Park. The unique lake is not just known for the different species of rare fishes and the musk ducks, but also for the changing color as per the climatic condition. Many foreign tourists come here to witness the camouflage of this majestic lake. A virgin destination a few years back. Now, more than 50,000 tourists flock the Rara Lake every year, and the number is constantly on the rise. Land and air are the two means to reach Rara Lake. You can reach Rara in a day from Kathmandu by air. From Trivandrum International Airport, Kathmandu to Nepalganj, and another flight from Nepalganj to Talcher Airport in Mugu is the easiest option. However, from Talcher, it is another 3 hours uphill walk to reach the breathtaking Rara Lake. If you choose land travel, it might take up to 3 days. A day's travel from Kathmandu to Surkhet, an overnight stay. Manma, the district headquarters of Kalikot, from Surkhet, an overnight stay. And on the 3rd day, you can reach the Rara Lake. You need not walk if you choose this route for Rara Lake. Humla is a very remote Himalayan district of Nepal bordering Mugu. It has great touristic importance. Many pilgrims who want to go to the mythical Kailas mountain via Mansarovar take the journey via Humla district. Tourists, mainly Indian pilgrims, travel to Mansarovar, one of the largest pure water bodies at the highest altitude in the world, for religious purposes. This is the shortest and the most convenient route for the pilgrims. Most of the pilgrims traveling to Mansarovar choose air trip up to Simikot of Humla from Nepalganj. From Simikot, helicopter trip up to Hilsa, from where they enter Chinese autonomous region of Tibet. One day's drive from entering Tibet, the pilgrims reach Mansarovar. The Kimi Valley of Humla is another new tourist destination in the district. Ancient idols of archaeological importance and the monasteries have given it a new name, the Valley of Monasteries. These priceless statues, sculptures, and artifacts are the major attractions in the valley. Majority of the tourists visiting Karnali are the pilgrims from India. Culturally, the people of the Karnali region believe in multi-deity worship, but majority pay homage to their ancestral deity, the Master God. The famous ritual of worshipping 12 Master deities has become a popular subject for researchers and tourists alike. Karnali is a majestic land, naturally as well as culturally. It has religious and cultural heritages in abundance. It offers attractions for tourists of varying interests. Somewhat deprived in education, health, and employment. Karnali's tourism potential, due to its unique and diverse nature, geography, religion, culture, history, and archaeology, is unexplored. Many potential tourist destinations have yet to be explored in this region. So far, 101 destinations in the region have been branded as of touristic importance. Of the 101, 13 are under federal government, 9 under province government, and 79 under local levels. Karnali might lack top-class infrastructures including roadways, hotels, or communications, but many destinations attract adventure tourists. Likewise, medicinal herbs like Yarsagumba, Kali Marsi paddy, millet and barley fields attract tourists when in full bloom. Some of the best organic dishes on offer you might find Kali Marsi paddy, honey, broad beans, dry apple, marfa, barley, sip wool products as the gifts of Karnali. Whitewater rafting in the 5th best river in the world, Karnali, and Veri, tall and majestic Kanjirova, Patarasi and Cisne mountains, open for expedition, challenge mountaineers and explorers alike. Karnali is also known as the origin of civilizations, including language, literature, art, and culture. It's a pure and revered land. It has a lot to offer to researchers and explorers. Surkhet, the provincial headquarters of Karnali, is the gateway to most of the tourist destinations. Karnali Highway connects some of the destinations, including Kotgadi, Panchadeval, Bilaspur, Mahabu area in Delhi. Pachal waterfall in Kalikot, Sinja Valley and the Dul monastery of Jumla, and Rara Lake of Mugu. Very few destinations of Mugu and Jumla have road access. On the other hand, many budget travelers are not encouraged to traveling in Karnali, as it is relatively expensive due to unavailability of road network. It is a must-go destination for those who want to experience the real Nepal.
Finance Minister Wagle presents budget of 21.24 trillion for upcoming fiscal year, projects economic growth rate of 7%. UN marks Peacekeepers Day worldwide, Nepal among the largest contributors in global peacekeeping missions. Everest Day observed in Nepal, record climbing season marks new peak in permits and revenue. Russia-Ukraine war spillover hits Romania. EU and NATO condemn drone strike on residential building. UN calls for urgent action to protect children online. Tech companies urged to ensure safer digital platforms. And Nepal finishes fourth in Kava Women's Volleyball Championship, suffers defeat to India in today's match. Hello there, I'm Diksha Wasti. You're watching NTV World News Hour. We are coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours Nepal time. Now the news in details. Nepal has unveiled a record national budget of 21.24 trillion rupees for the fiscal year 2026-27, setting an ambitious 7% economic growth target driven by reforms, investment promotion, and technology-led development. The spending plan prioritizes good governance and structural reforms with allocations of 12.70 trillion rupees for current expenditure, 4.31 trillion for capital spending, and 4.22 trillion for fiscal management, while aiming to raise 14.4 trillion rupees in revenue. Key measures include a 21% salary increase for civil employees, tax and customs reductions on raw materials, and the introduction of a fully automated VAT refund system to improve the business environment. The government has also outlined major investments in artificial intelligence, green energy, education, health and infrastructure, alongside opening international electricity trade to the private sector. We will see more on this in our segment issue of the day later in the bulletin. Now, the International Day of United Nations Peacekeepers was observed globally today, honoring the service and sacrifice of personnel serving in U.S. peacekeeping missions. Nepal remains one of the largest contributors to UN peacekeeping, with more than 4,300 Nepali soldiers and police currently deployed across multiple missions worldwide. The United Nations says peacekeepers from 118 countries are serving in 11 operations, with this year's theme focused on investing in peace. On the occasion, the UN announced that 2 Nepali peacekeepers will be posthumously awarded the Dag Hammarskjöld Medal for their sacrifice in the line of duty. Nepal is observing the 76th Everest Day today, marking the anniversary of the first successful ascent of Mount Everest in 1953 by Tenzing Norgay Sherpa and Sir Edmund Hillary. The day is being commemorated as a symbol of human courage, endurance, and mountaineering achievement. This year's observance comes alongside a record spring climbing season, with 492 climbers from 50 expedition teams receiving permits to scale the world's highest peak. According to Nepal's Department of Tourism, the figure marks the highest number of Everest permits issued in a single season, along with record royalty revenue collection. We will shed more light on this in our segment cover story later in the bulletin. Romania's president announced that the NATO member will excel the Russian Consul General in the Black Sea city of Constanta and close to the consulate. The decision follows a drone crash that hit an apartment building and injured 2 Romanian citizens. President Nico Shor said Russia bears full responsibility for the incident. He stated that the action is in response to what he described as Russia's ongoing war of aggression against Ukraine. The announcement was made in video statement confirming the diplomat has been declared persona non grata. The United Nations has warned that marking the digital world safe for children is now an urgent global priority. UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk said governments must require tech companies to build a safe child into the design of their platforms. He argued that many harms to children online are the result of business models and algorithmic choices made by tech firms. Turk noted that while the internet supports learning and creativity, it also exposes children to serious risks to privacy, safety, and well-being. He called for stronger regulation, oversight, and accountability to ensure safer online environments for children. Nepal has missed out on a medal at the Central Asian Volleyball Association (CAVA) Women's Volleyball Championship after losing to India in the third-place playoff in Kathmandu. India secured a 3-1 victory at the National Sports Council Covered Hall in Tripureshwar, taking the first two sets before Nepal briefly fought back to win the third set. However, India regained control to clinch the fourth set and the bronze medal position. The result leaves Nepal in fourth place in the tournament after an earlier straight sets defeat to Iran in the semi-final. Now, Nepal unveils a record 21.24 trillion rupee budget for the upcoming fiscal year, targeting 7% economic growth through reforms, investment and technology-driven development. Our colleagues have prepared special reports on the budget's highlights, tax measures and what it means for the country's economy. We take a closer look at this in our Issue of the Day segment after this short break. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World News Hour. Now, Issue of the Day. Nepal's Finance Minister, Dr. Swarnim Wagle, has unveiled a record national budget of 21.24 trillion Nepali rupees for the upcoming fiscal year, with the government targeting 7% economic growth through reforms, investment promotion and technology-driven development. Presenting the budget at a joint session of the Federal Parliament on Friday, Minister Wagle said the spending plan is centered on good governance, production-based economic expansion, and large-scale structural reforms in policies and institutions. The budget allocates 12.70 trillion rupees for current expenditure, 4.31 trillion for capital expenditure, and 4.22 trillion for fiscal management, while aiming to raise 14.4 trillion rupees in revenue. Major policy announcements include a 21% salary increase for civil employees, cuts in customs duties on 273 raw materials, the removal of excise duties on 360 items, and the launch of a fully automated VAT refund system to improve the business environment. The government has also announced investments in artificial intelligence, green energy, education, health and sports infrastructure, while allowing Nepal's private sector to participate in international electricity trade for the first time. In the meantime, economic growth rate of 7% has been projected for the upcoming fiscal year. Nepal achieved economic growth rate of 3.85% in the current fiscal year. Now, defying the ceiling set by National Planning Commission by more than 2 trillion, Finance Minister Dr. Swarnim Wagle presented the annual budget for the upcoming fiscal year 2026-27. As the budget brings smiles to most of the sectors, many are concerned over its implementation, which projects ambitious growth rate of 7%. Devendra Subedi looks into the budget in numbers and its highlights.
Finance Minister Dr. Swarnim Wagle has presented the annual estimation of Nepal government's income and expenditure of more than 21.24 trillion rupees for the fiscal year 2026-27. In the joint meeting of Legislature Parliament Friday, Minister Wagle presented the budget, which is almost 2 trillion higher than the ceiling set by the National Planning Commission. Breaking down the expenditure details, Finance Minister Wagle said he has allocated 12.70 trillion rupees for current expenditure. Likewise, there has been little increment in capital expenditure with 4.31 trillion rupees allocation. Likewise, expenditure for fiscal management has been allocated at 4.22 trillion rupees. Projecting the income for the upcoming fiscal year, Finance Minister Dr. Wagle said 14.4 trillion rupees will be recovered from revenue collection, which is almost 2 trillion higher than the current fiscal year. Likewise, 61.74 billion will be managed through grant and 2.47 billion will be generated from foreign loan, according to Finance Minister Dr. Wagle. Internal loan of 4.1 billion will be drawn to manage the income, according to Finance Minister Dr. Wagle. Meanwhile, Minister Dr. Wagle has ambitiously projected economic growth rate of 7% for the new fiscal year. The growth rate sounds ambitious given the current fiscal year's growth rate of 3.85%. Presenting the budget, Finance Minister Wagle expressed his hope that the budget will set a standard for good governance. Minister Wagle said the upcoming budget will bring transformations in policies, laws, institutions, procedures and leadership, thus establishing good governance. Stating that the nation is in the decisive juncture of comprehensive economic reforms, Minister Wagle said the budget is centered on massive reforms in economy and the establishment of good governance. According to Minister Dr. Wagle, the new budget is primarily focused on production-based economy, good governance and technology-friendly development. The minister claimed that this time's budget has been presented as a reliable document for policy transformations instead of limiting it as an official statement. Information and communications, artificial intelligence, finance, trade, investment and collective capacity of Nepali community that spreads across the globe have been presented as major basis for economic transformations. Minister Wagle said the government aims to build new structure for a coordinated economic growth through the proper utilization of new technology.
Now let's look at the key highlights and numbers from the budget announcement for the upcoming fiscal year 2026-27.
Budget in numbers. Total budget of 21.243 trillion rupees. Current expenditure 12.70 trillion rupees. Capital expenditure 4.31 trillion rupees. Fiscal management 4.22 trillion rupees. Revenue collection projection 14.4 trillion rupees. Grant 61.74 billion rupees. Foreign loan 2.47 billion rupees. Internal loan 4.10 billion rupees. Budget 2026-27 highlights. Individual taxpayers limit increased to 1 million rupees. Custom duties on 273 types of raw materials reduced. 11-level customs structure reduced to 7 levels. Excise duty levied on 360 items abolished. Fully automated VAT refund system. 31 government bodies scrapped, 18 restructured. Sunset laws to be introduced. Matri Bhumi course for establishing an AI factory. 360 types of excise duties scrapped. Green energy bond established. Lottery schemes to encourage practice of invoices and transaction. Nepal Electricity Authority restructured into 3 separate companies for generation, transmission and distribution and trading of power. Private sector to be allowed to trade electricity in the international market. Large and reservoir-based hydropower project promoters to be allowed to sell up to 40% of the shares to the general public in the first year. High-level advisory committee tasked with evaluating the applicability of a multi-rate system in VAT. Sports sector allocated 4.03 billion. Floodlight-equipped football stadiums in 8 major cities. International cricket stadiums in 8 major cities. 120 billion allocated for social security schemes. 218.3 billion allocated for education sector. 206.8 billion allocated for physical and urban development. Investment Express program to encourage and revive industries. Nursing staff entitled to 100% increments in salary in night shift. Health sector allocated 101.95 billion rupees. Nepal to be declared street child-free country. Nepal to be promoted as a wellness tourism destination. Civil employee salary increased by 21%. Sovereign wealth fund by utilizing foreign currency reserve. Economic growth rate of 7% projected for 2026-27. Economic growth rate revised to 3.85% for current fiscal year.
Now, to give a new direction to the national economy, the government has introduced major and bold reforms in the tax system through the budget for the upcoming fiscal year. The budget for the upcoming fiscal year includes measures ranging from providing direct relief to ordinary consumers to resolving long-standing legal ambiguities that had remained unsettled for years, a report. Nepal's government in the upcoming budget 2026-27 announced sweeping tax reforms. This package reflects design to put more money in people's pockets, remove bureaucratic hurdles for businesses, and energize a sluggish economy. For the first time in history, most customs and excise duties have been abolished in order to reduce the cost of goods and services in the market. With a strong focus on revenue collection targets of around 12 trillion for the year, the government has completely transformed existing tax mechanisms. For ordinary Nepalis, the government has shown significant generosity in personal income tax related to the daily lives of ordinary citizens. From now on, individuals earning up to 1 million Nepali rupees annually will not have to pay income tax. The maximum personal income tax rate has also been cut by 10%. It is believed millions of salaried workers and small business owners will feel the relief immediately. On the industrial front, customs duties on 273 types of raw materials have been reduced, ensuring manufacturers pay less for inputs than for finished imports. The 11-tier customs structure is being simplified to just 7 tiers. Excise duties on 360 goods are scrapped entirely, and a tangle of smaller levies will be merged into a single green tax. Consumers who pay digitally will now receive a 10% discount on VAT at the point of purchase, backed by an automated refund system and a new bill lottery scheme to build an invoicing culture. Finally, taxpayers with cases pending in court can settle by paying just 1% surcharge, with all fines and interest fully waived. The government calls it a reset, compliance as a partner. That wraps up our issue of the day segment. On to the next segment now. Nepal celebrates the 76th Everest Day today, honoring the historic first ascent of Mount Everest. From record-breaking climbing permits to the iconic Everest Marathon, excitement fills the Everest region, even as concerns grow over safety and protecting the mountain's fragile ecosystem. More in our cover story segment after this breather. Welcome back. I'm Diksha Wasti. You're with NTV World News Hour. Now on to cover story. Nepal has marked the 76th Everest Day today, commemorating the historic first successful ascent of Mount Everest, the world's highest peak, by Tenzing Norgay Sherpa of Nepal and Sir Edmund Hillary of New Zealand on May 29, 1953. The achievement is widely regarded as one of the greatest milestones in mountaineering history and continues to symbolize human courage, endurance and exploration. Nepal has been officially observing Everest Day since 2008 following the passing of Sir Edmund Hillary earlier that year, while Tenzing Norgay passed away in 1986. This year's observance comes amid a record-breaking spring climbing season on Mount Everest. According to the Department of Tourism, 492 climbers from 50 expedition teams have obtained permits this season, the highest number ever recorded for a single climbing period. Officials say this has also generated a record level of royalty revenue for the government. The milestone highlights both the growing global interest in Everest and renewed discussions on sustainable mountaineering practices. The prestigious Tenzing Hillary Everest Marathon has successfully concluded in Namche Bazar, started from Everest Base Camp. The marathon has held on the occasion of International Everest Day, marking the historic first ascent of Mount Everest. The marathon is held every year on May 29 in memory of Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay Sherpa, who first summited Everest in 1953. The race began from Everest Base Camp at 5,364 meters and ended at Namche Bazar at 3,440 meters above sea level. Despite the difficult Himalayan terrain, low oxygen levels and snowy trails, hundreds of runners from around the world participated in the event. Organized by Himalaya Expedition and the Tenzing Hillary Everest Marathon Committee, the competition included the 42-kilometer full marathon, 60-kilometer ultra marathon, and 21-kilometer half marathon. Nepali runners once again dominated the competition. In the men's category, Ramesh Limbu won the 42-kilometer race with a new record of 3 hours, 35 minutes and 59 seconds. Arjun Kulung came second, while Suman Kulung finished third. In the women's category, Lakpa Ningma Sherpa secured first place with a new record time of 4 hours, 34 minutes and 49 seconds. Winners received cash prizes, medals and certificates during a special ceremony held at Namche Bazar. Locals in the area express happiness. The marathon has brought positive energy to the tourism sector. With a growing royalty for the Everest ascent resulted by record number of permits issued this year, there has also been a grave concern regarding overcrowding and sanitation at the world's highest peak. In this context, we sought opinions of the summiters from various countries regarding this issue. During the summiters summit held a couple of days ago, we asked them, how can we protect Mount Everest's ecosystem? Let's have a look at what they say.
While coming back, every small things, whatever the things we can take with us, even small wrapper also we don't keep in on mountains. Ourselves, everybody, every mountaineers, if wish to clean the mountains, even small things happens, and every mountaineer take part of it.
The formation of the ice and all, millions of years took for the creation, and after that it's just melting. So it is also harassing the nature, the climate change. Every year so many people are just not aware about the mountains, how to save, but they are climbing. So we have to also concern about we are using continuously so many vehicles, so many populated vehicles. So we have to shift environmental friendly vehicles also. We have to use the environmental product also. We have to ignore the plastic.
जति पनि हामीले पर्यावरणको सिलसिलामा हामीले जति पनि सामानहरु माथि बोकेर लगाउँ त्यो चाहिँ एटलिस्ट बेस क्याम्पदेखि तलसम्म ल्याउन सक्यो भने त्यसले केही हदसम्म चाहिँ नियन्त्रण गर्न सकिन्छ के भन्ने मेरो अनुमान।
त्यहाँको फोहोरहरु चाहिँ एकदमै सफा गर्नु पर्यो।
विशेष गरी यो केम 2 केम 1 को चाहिँ हामीले सफा गर्ने हामी व्यक्तिगत रूपमा पनि हामी जिम्मेवार भयो भने सफा गर्न सकिने अवस्था छ तर केम 4 चाहिँ विशेष गरेर त्यहाँ चाहिँ मैले धेरै यो 4 को डङ्गुरहरू देखेँ अनि त्यहाँ चाहिँ अब त्यो एकदमै अक्सिजन पनि एकदमै कम हुने भएको कारणले त्यहाँ चाहिँ अब नेपाल सरकारले एउटा ठुलो प्रोजेक्ट लानुपर्छ जस्तो लाग्छ 4 को डङ्गुरहरू चाहिँ केम 4 मा थुप्रेको छ अब त्यहाँ चाहिँ पालहरू भनौँ अब लुगाफाटाहरू स्लिपिङ ब्यागहरू छोडिदिएको छ अनि केम 4 चाहिँ अब सफा गर्नुपर्छ जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई चाहिँ
फर्स्टली त ग्लोबल वार्मिङ नै हो अहिले अब एकदमै धेरै पल्युसन भइरहेको कारणले चाहिँ हाम्रो हिमालहरू पग्लिँदै आएको छ सो हामी समिट गर्ने क्रममा पनि हामीले देख्छौँ त्यो बाटोमा पनि पुरै हिमालहरू सबै पग्लिसकेको छ त्यहाँनिर जुन खुम्बु आइसफलको बिचमा पनि पुरै खोला बग्छ कि एकदमै ठुलो खोला बग्छ अनि त्यो हुँदै गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ हाम्रो हिमालहरू बिस्तारै लोप हुन्छ कि भन्ने चाहिँ मलाई लाग्छ है
मेन भनेको त त्यो अफकोर्स स्नो आर मेल्टिङ होइन अनि प्लस गार्बेज स्पेसली चाहिँ क्याम्प 4 मा त्यो मैले चाहिँ 2024 मा गरे हो सो त्यो टाइममा चाहिँ अब मुनि त त्यस्तो खासै त्यस्तो फिल भएन जब समिट गर्ने टाइममा चाहिँ क्याम्प 4 मा पुग्दा जुन तरिकाको त्यो जुन मैले गार्बेजहरू देखेँ त्यो कुराहरू देख्दा चाहिँ एकदमै दुःख लागेको थियो
सबैभन्दा ठुलो कुरा चाहिँ राम्रो खालको म्यानेजमेन्ट नै हो हैन र अर्को कुरा चाहिँ क्लाइम्बर नै अवेर हुनुपर्छ हैन हामीले चाहिँ अब अरू मान्छेहरूले चाहिँ यहाँ यस्तो गर्नुपर्छ उस्तो गर्नुपर्छ भन्दाखेरि पनि जो चाहिँ मेन क्लाइम्ब गर्ने हो जो समिट गर्न जाने हो एभरेस्ट ड्रिम देखेको छ उसले नै अवेर हुनु पर्यो अर्को कुरा चाहिँ सगरमाथालाई रेस्पेक्ट हो हैन सम्मान दिनु पर्यो त्यो गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ अटोमेटिकली हैन सगरमाथामा पोल्युसन 4 को कुरा पनि कम हुन सक्छ हैन
बिगेस्ट थिङ इज द ट्र्याश and I think Everest and Nepali people are doing really well with that. You know, Everest is commercialized now. More people come, and you know, everybody in their life want to see Everest. So you know, it's really so hard to stop the people. But if we can limit the permits, like 150 climbers per year, maybe or something like that, I think that would be great. But still, it's going to be lost for a lot of businesses.
I think it is very important to take responsibility for our own actions and to, for sure, bring down our own trash, not leave anything behind in the mountains. And be aware and, clean up after ourselves.
The environment in high altitude is vulnerable, really. If I leave something behind, I can go the exact same place next year and find this. It will not disappear. We need to make sure we take our trash down, but also we need to make sure that there is an understanding what happened with the trash. Yeah, because if I take a trash down to base camp, it will still be in base camp. In 10 years, in 20 years, we need to make sure everything is recycled in a way that is possible.
That was the cover story of the day. Now we move on to other updates. One of the youngest republics in the world, Nepal completed 18 years down the road. The day marks the abolishment of 238-year-old monarchy and embracing a federal democratic republic, a historic shift that transferred state power from the palace to the people. President Ramchandra Paudel at the special ceremony at Tudikal called for safeguarding democratic values, a report.
On May 28, 2008, Nepal formally ended the more than 2-century-old monarchy and established a federal democratic republic, a dream long cherished but materialized decades later that transferred sovereign power from the palace to the people. The country marked a Republic Day with nationwide celebrations commemorating one of the most significant political transformations in its history. The republican system brought major constitutional and political reforms, including federalism, inclusive and proportional representation, and expanded citizens' rights. It also created opportunities for ordinary citizens to reach the nation's highest offices through democratic process. The main ceremony was held Friday morning at Sainik Manch, Turikil in Kathmandu, in the presence of President Ramchandra Paudel, Vice President Ram Sahai Prasad Yadav, Prime Minister Balendra Shah, and other senior dignitaries. The event featured ceremonial marches and musical performances by the Nepal Army, Nepal Police, and Armed Police Force Nepal. Addressing the ceremony, President Paudel described the Republic as both a major national achievement and a shared responsibility.
लोकतन्त्रमा अन्तिम मालिक जनता नै हुन् भन्ने मान्यता स्थापित भएको छ। हाम्रो संविधानले निर्दिष्ट गरेको संघीय लोकतान्त्रिक गणतन्त्रले नागरिकको राजनीतिक, आर्थिक, सामाजिक, धार्मिक र सांस्कृतिक स्वतन्त्रता सहित निमुखालाई न्याय र विपन्नलाई आएको परिलक्ष्य राखेको छ। अधिकारका विभिन्न प्रकार उल्लेख गरे पनि ती सबै अधिकारले निमुखा जनतालाई निर्वाध स्वतन्त्रता उपभोग गर्ने र उनीहरूको जीवनस्तर उकास्ने अवसर प्रदान गर्ने विषय नै संघीय लोकतान्त्रिक गणतन्त्रले बोकेको दर्शनभित्रको antariya ho.
President Paudel acknowledged growing public frustration over unfulfilled expectations tied to the Republican system and called for unity, stronger democratic values, and ethical political conduct. Meanwhile, concerns remain that despite the Republic introducing historic constitutional changes, effective implementation and delivery remain below par. As Nepal enters its 19th year as a republic, the day serves as a reminder of the responsibilities and expectations that continue to shape the nation's future.
In another news, heavy rainfall overnight has caused flooding in several parts of the Kathmandu Valley, inundating low-lying settlements and disrupting normal life in Kathmandu and Bhaktapur. Rivers including the Bagmati, Vishnumati, Manohara and Hanumante, along with several smaller streams, swelled after continuous downpours that began around 9 p.m. last night and continued into the morning. The Department of Hydrology and Meteorology recorded as high as 77 millimeters of rainfall in various places of the valley within a short span of hours. The Met Division has warned that unstable conditions will continue in the coming days, with risks of rainfall, lightning and further flooding as multiple weather systems remain active all over Nepal. Nepal Cancer Hospital and Research Center in Harisiddhi marked its 9th anniversary with a cancer awareness walkathon in Kathmandu to raise public awareness about early detection and treatment. The event saw participation from a large number of cancer survivors who aimed to encourage newly diagnosed patients and boost their morale in fighting the disease. Organizers stressed that cancer is a treatable medical condition when diagnosed early, urging people not to panic and to seek timely medical care. Panchadewal is a historic cluster of stone temples featuring 22 standing Shikhara-style monuments located in the Burta complex of Narayan municipality in Dailek district, Western Nepal. Believed to date back to the 11th century, the site stands as an important architectural heritage of the region. Recognizing its historical significance, the local government and the Department of Archaeology are working to preserve and promote the site at the global level. Rojina Rai with local correspondent Vishnu Sharma brings a report.
The historic Panchadewal area in Dailek district of Western Nepal carries the legacy of the ancient Sinja kingdom, reflecting the rich heritage and bravery of Karnali province. Located in Bhurti village of Ward number 6 in Narayan municipality, the site features 22 standing Sikhara-style monuments that attracts thousands of visitors every year. However, the area remained neglected for a long and was in urgent need of restoration. In a significant step in coordination with the local government and the Department of Archaeology, preparations have begun to declare the site as a protected heritage area. as many such heritage structures in Dailek continue to face the threat of deterioration due to inadequate conservation efforts. Believed to have been constructed around the 11th century, the Panchadeval complex, a remarkable example of ancient architecture, was recommended by UNESCO for inclusion in the World Heritage List in 2008. Despite this recognition, little substantial conservation work was carried out for many years. After an 18-year gap, a team led by the Director General of the Department of Archaeology conducted a field inspection. Ward Chairperson of Narayan Municipality, Janak Neupane, stated that the local government is committed to fulfilling all necessary criteria to advance the campaign for listing Panchadeval as a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
क्षेत्रका मान्छेहरुसँग सहयोगको पुनः अपेक्षा गर्ने र हामी चाहिँ एकताबद्ध भएर यो सम्पदा सूचीका इन्डिकेटरहरु के हुन् ती सबै इन्डिकेटरहरु नागरिकको तहबाट स्थानीय सरकारको तहबाट पूरा गर्ने प्रतिबद्धता बन्न गर्छ.
There are more than 60 such historic devils and stone pillars within Narayan municipality alone. While some lie on private land, many have already been damaged or lost due to a lack of proper preservation efforts.
Now, international news coming up next, but before that, let's have a recap of headlines. Finance Minister Wagle presents budget of 21.24 trillion for upcoming fiscal year, projects economic growth rate of 7%. UN marks Peacekeepers Day worldwide, Nepal among the largest contributors in global peacekeeping missions. Everest Day observed in Nepal, record climbing season marks new peak in permits and revenue. Russia-Ukraine war spillover hits Romania. EU and NATO condemn drone strike on residential building. UN calls for urgent action to protect children online. Tech companies urged to ensure safer digital platforms. And Nepal finishes fourth in Kava Women's Volleyball Championship, suffers defeat to India in today's match. In the international front, the United States and Iran are still negotiating key issues before any agreement can be finalized over the ongoing war and related nuclear concerns, according to U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. Vance said that it was too early to say when or if a deal would be reached, despite reports of a tentative framework under discussion between the two sides.
We're going back and forth on a couple of language points. I do think that we've made a lot of progress here. It's very clear that I think the Iranians, they want a deal, and they want to open the Straits of Hormuz. We want them to open the Straits of Hormuz. There are a couple of issues on the nuclear stuff, the highly enriched stockpile, and also the question of enrichment. So, we're going back and forth with them. We do think they're negotiating, at least so far, in good faith, and we're making some progress.
Meanwhile, the proposed memorandum of understanding between U.S. and Iran would extend a ceasefire for 60 days and open negotiations on Iran's nuclear program, but it is still pending approval from President Donald Trump and Iranian leaderships. The framework reportedly includes provisions for maritime access through the Strait of Hormuz and potential U.S. sanctions waivers to allow Iran to resume oil exports, though Iranian media said no agreement has been confirmed. Both sides remain divided over uranium enrichment, with Washington demanding restrictions and Tehran maintaining its nuclear program is peaceful. In more from Middle East tensions, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that he has instructed the Israel Defense Forces to expand control over Gaza to 70%, up from what he said is about 60% currently. The expansion is controlled by Israel would contradict the terms of the Donald Trump-led ceasefire Israel and Hamas agreed to in October 2025. Speaking at a conference, he described ongoing operations against Hamas and indicated further territorial gains as part of continued military pressure.
אנחנו יכולים למנף את הכוח שלנו
עם הרבה כיוונים. תצטרך עוד למחוץ את חיזבאללה. אנחנו כרגע לופתים את חמאס, כן? אנחנו עכשיו ב-60% משטח הרצועה, אתם יודעים את זה. היינו ב-50, עברנו ל-60. הדירקטיבה שלי היא לעבור תלכו לפי הסדר. קודם כל 70. בואו נתחיל בזה. לופתים אותם מכל עבר, אנחנו נטפל בשאריות.
The World Health Organization has announced the first condemned recovery of an Ebola patient since the start of a deadly outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo. WHO Technical Officer Anais Legand said it is at a briefing in Geneva that more recoveries are expected as treatment improves. She added that health teams can scale up care and optimize intensive treatment for patients. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom visited Kinshasa as authorities continue efforts to contain the outbreak. Officials in the Democratic Republic of the Congo are still struggling to control the spread of the virus, which was declared just 2 weeks ago. Now it's time for business updates.
Ukraine announced plans to purchase up to 20 next-generation Gripen E fighter jets, while Sweden will donate 16 older models to strengthen Kyiv's air defenses against Russia. Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson said deliveries of the Gripen E jets are expected to begin in 2030, with Ukraine allocating $2.9 billion from an EU loan for the purchase. The 16 donated jets are scheduled for delivery in early 2027 as part of Sweden's 22nd military aid package to Ukraine, valued at 25.2 billion kroner or $2.7 billion. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Kyiv ultimately hopes to secure financing to acquire up to 150 Gripen aircraft, as per the letter of intent signed between the two countries last October. Hong Kong has overtaken Switzerland as the world's largest cross-border wealth management center, according to the Global Wealth Report 2026 released by the Boston Consulting Group. The report said Hong Kong manages $2.9 trillion in offshore assets, surpassing Switzerland by $10 billion, driven by inflows from mainland China, strong IPO activity, and gains in equity markets. Hong Kong Financial Secretary Paul Chan said the city continues to strengthen its financial infrastructure and attract ultra-high net worth individuals and family offices. The report projects Hong Kong's cross-border wealth assets will grow by around 9% annually through 2030, widening its lead over Switzerland to an estimated $600 billion. Artificial intelligence firm Anthropic has raised $65 billion in a new funding round, pushing its valuation to $965 billion and overtaking rival OpenAI in the rapidly expanding AI sector. Founded by former OpenAI employees and led by CEO Dario Amodei, the company has gained prominence through its enterprise-focused AI products and advanced coding capabilities. Anthropic says it will use the funding to expand computing capacity, strengthen AI safety research, and scale its Claude models for clients. The company is also embroiled in a legal dispute with the Pentagon, headquarters of the United States Department of Defense, after challenging a U.S. Defense Department designation that labeled it a supply chain risk. Meanwhile, Anthropic has restricted access to its next-generation AI model Mythos, citing concerns over its powerful cybersecurity capabilities.
With that, we move on to sports. With only 2 weeks remaining to start off the FIFA World Cup, Iran's football team has yet to receive US visas ahead of the FIFA World Cup, according to Iranian ambassador to Mexico. Ambassador Afol Fazol Pasandideh said the team has been unable to prepare properly after relocating its training camp from Arizona, US to the Mexican border city of Tijuana. He said visa delays and the ongoing Middle East conflict have prevented Iran from training under equal conditions compared with other teams in the tournament. Iran is scheduled to play group stage matches against New Zealand on June 15 and Belgium on June 21 in Los Angeles before facing Egypt on June 26 in Seattle. Iranian officials are seeking multiple entry visas for players as diplomatic concerns continue ahead of the competition. And now the weather updates from across Nepal and then the world. And before we wrap up, here's a reminder of our top stories. Finance Minister Wagle presents budget of 21.24 trillion for upcoming fiscal year, projects economic growth rate of 7%. UN marks Peacekeepers Day worldwide, Nepal among the largest contributors in global peacekeeping missions. Everest Day observed in Nepal, record climbing season marks new peak in permits and revenue. Russia-Ukraine war spillover hits Romania, EU and NATO condemn drone strike on residential building. UN calls for urgent action to protect children online, tech companies urged to ensure safer digital platforms. And Nepal finishes fourth in Kava Women's Volleyball Championship, suffers defeat to India in today's match. That is it for today's News Hour. Stay with us, join us through our social media app and get the latest updates from our official website, nepaltelevision.com. I'm Diksha Awasthi. Thank you for staying with us. Have a wonderful time ahead.